Like I said, I was at surely all.
But you have to know your percentages that's going there.
I mean, we've met up in the street taking out.
And that would also be,
Don't really talk about
that would be where the workshops would come in, where you would ask the questions. Yeah, just trying to cover them.
Has to be.
I think Ashley dedicated himself as the turn on and off person.
Right, so it's gonna be Jean's daughter's daughter, because they're gonna be a granddaughter. Yes. So it'd be Jane Ann's granddaughter, Shirley's great granddaughter. What, right? I mean.
Dayton Utility Meeting to order. Everybody's here. Any questions on minutes?
Make a motion to approve minutes from July 8th, 2019.
Second.
A motion to second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Make a motion to move the claims docket to regular meeting.
Second.
A motion to second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Adjustment report.
So I talked to Ty and Tammy, and I think we're gonna do something new, since instead of going through every single person to keep our meetings kind of flowing, since you guys get them, most of the stuff is just like the pool credits and everything like that. So if you guys have any questions, then I can answer them. Other than that, I'll just make a motion to approve the adjustment report.
Make that motion.
Second that motion?
She can't make the
Yeah,
motion.
I don't make the motion.
You'll make the motion, I'll second the motion.
Yeah.
A motion to second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Clerk treasurer.
So only a couple things that I have, that I've been working on for the past month, with Reed and Tammy and Tyrone, and I've talked to Ron about, and actually Ashley as well. So now that our bonds are all paid off and everything, we were looking at kind of restructuring some things and adding a couple things. So one of the things that I first wanted to bring was the idea about the summer sprinkler credits. So Keystone is set up to be able to do this. It's very quite simple. So what we would do is we would call our winter months, November, December, and January. Every month that I would calculate bills, it would take the average of those 3 months of water usage. And then our summer months, which we could make June, July, and August. So say somebody averages 3,000 gallons of water consumption in the winter. Say during the summer, because they've got pool fills, watering, power washing. So say for the month of July, they used 5,000 gallons of water. So they would be charged the 5,000 gallons water consumption, but they would only be charged the 3,000 winter average of storm or of sewage. So like how we already do ourselves, and people come in and say, hey, they got the hose from Mark, they filled their pool for 13,000 gallons. Instead of us manually having to go in and edit every single person's, because say somebody fills their pool on the 7th, but we read meters on the 6th. We have to wait completely until the next month on the 15th for that bill to generate for us to give them their credit for filling their pools. So by doing this, we don't have to manually do it anymore. It's easier. It gives people who like to water their yard or fill their pools or power wash their decks or their house. It gives them that little bit of credit of sewage, but they'll still always pay for their water consumption. They'll just get that summer sewage credit in the months of June, July, and August. Same thing that Lafayette does.
I thought we had it set up to where you come in one time in September if you wanted credit.
That, I think the ordinance is for new homeowners, or like for new built homes. But as I've talked to people, it's always just been kind of the running understanding, if you fill your pool, you get the sewage credit. Like if somebody has a leak outside and it doesn't go down the drain, they'll come in and say, hey, this is what happened, and confirm. But this is more of just people that are watering their grass and everything.
I do agree that we need to take a serious look at some type of summertime water credit, for watering yards mainly. You have the occasional pool and some things like that. But I do know we have language in our ordinances about how often credits can be issued and stuff like that, so we need to look at those ordinances and probably change them should we adopt some type of a summer credit.
And that's what Reed and I were talking about, since this is something that actually wouldn't take effect until next year, but yet the winter months would start calculating this year. So we still have a couple months. If you guys are willing to move forward, then Reed and I can look into exactly if an ordinance needs to be established, what we need to change for that to kick in then this winter.
Well, and I think we may want to look at having a rate consultant be involved in this and look at the overall rate too. We don't want to.
That would be for water?
Yeah, we don't.
You're not lowering the water though. You're just giving a sewage credit. You're not changing. It's no different than what we already do.
We used to do it, Mike is right, we used to do it once a year, I think
Right.
in September or so, and it made it sort of easy and eliminated some of the little.
And there's not too many
Plus.
people that actually go over that, and say you have somebody who uses only 1,000 gallon minimum during the winter, and then during the summer they're using 3,000, it's not gonna affect them at all because they're already in that minimum bill. It's literally only the people that go way over, and I mean, it's not that much of a change to the sewage. I mean, 1,000 gallon difference is $9.93. So, I mean, and I talked to Steve Brock about this. Actually, everything that I'm gonna talk about here right now, I went over with Steve Brock. He's talked to the USDA. Reed and I have met. Tammy and I went over it. Ty and I went over it. I've talked to Ron. I've talked to City of Lafayette, their billing. I think we've all agreed that because we get our water from the City of Lafayette, our sewage treatment is from the City of Lafayette, we need to model ourselves after them. And I think that's what Reed and I talked about.
Yeah, and I think we've done that in many aspects as we were allowed to do, given our beholdens to the USDA for loans and some things like that.
And I've confirmed, the USDA, you do not have to charge a specific rate. It's called a no-free service. So meaning you could not give service to somebody free of charge. But if a water was off or whatever, you were still not forced to charge that person because of the USDA. And we have confirmed that with USDA. I have the emails from USDA with Steve Brock. It's called a no-free service. That's what it's called. It doesn't sit here and tell you that you have to charge the people a certain amount. It means that you need to be charging them, and that's what the whole rate was, the rate study for like sewage.
I think the reason we did it one time in September was to save the headache for the clerk treasurer doing 2 or 3 here this month, 2 or 3 the next month, but it doesn't matter to me if you're comfortable doing them that way instead of one lump sum and only doing it 1 month. I don't have a problem with that, but you probably still need to look at the ordinance to see.
Right, and that's where, yeah. And here, like right now, we are manually, this is what you see the adjustment reports. You see me manually having to do this by doing what utility is set up to do. Utility billing does it all itself. I don't manually have to go in, it automatically detects it.
And I have looked at our town ordinance and the city of Lafayette ordinances. I don't think either of them speak to this summer sprinkler credit. So I think that we're free to do it, and then, whatever we decide is a question of whether we want to put that into an ordinance.
I suppose with the snowboard accounts that we have, there would be, instead of just using the 3 months where obviously they're out of town, we could
We don't have snowbirds anymore.
maybe look at some other method.
Yeah, I think snowbirds was taken away maybe in 12 or 14.
Yeah, quite a while.
But we have people in this town that will leave for the winter months, so they'll have zero usage.
Correct, but they're still being charged a bill.
Yeah.
The minimum.
Yes. But that's where Reed and I are looking into our ordinances, how they're saying and worded that we need, but we didn't want to get into that until we clarified that, because then that's a whole another aspect that we need to, so I have talked to Seabrook about lowering our rates or lowering our minimums, because Ron said that he'd like to see a 2,000, Ty said he'd like to see a 1,000, so I did have the phone conference with Steve Brock. He did say based on our wastewater study, we are not in the position to lower our wastewater rates, but we are in the position to lower our water rates. But we would need a water rate study. We have to have a public hearing, have an ordinance, publish it in the paper. So it's not just we sit and agree that we're gonna do it. It's a process. So this is something that doesn't cause a long process. It's easier to get at least, the smallest things.
I think we ought to go down to 1,000, but at least 2,000.
Yeah.
But I like the 1,000 also.
And I agree, I've asked, for a long time, I've wanted some type of sprinkler credit or water credit for summer months, so I agree with you there.
I'd make a motion to just, for you to go ahead and start working with Reed and looking into getting this new sprinkler credit ordinance going.
I'll set it.
Motion is second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, so the second thing is another thing where I don't believe we would need an ordinance because you're not changing the rates. But we've had an issue come up about, and since I've been here since last May, I've never had the issue where somebody would sell a house in the middle of the month. It's always either been the last week of the month or the first week of the month. So how the bill would carry over, it would go to that owner that is selling. We've now had the issue come up in July, where a person was selling the 17th of the month, the new person was moving in the 18th of the month, so they were literally in there only 4 more days more than the new owner. So of course, it's just always been who's ever in the house the longest gets that final bill. Well, that person did not want to pay for 12 days of usage of the new person, and the new person didn't want to pay for 15 days or 17 days of the previous owner's usage. So I looked into prorating bills. So say a person moves out on the 17th of the month, Mark will go read their meter. If they use 3,000 gallons, that's what they will be charged for. So they would be charged for the 3,000 gallon rate, the tax, the flat stormwater fee of $5, whatever the 3,000 waste is. And then for trash, since our trash is $13.50, we would break it down. If you take $13.50 divided by 30, that makes 45 cents a day. So however many days that person's in there, times that by 45, that's what their bill would be. So say then the new person moves in, they use 2,000. We can actually take what our rate is, divide it by 3. That's how you get your per 1,000, times it by 2. I mean, I know it sounds complicated, but it's literally just prorating, and then that person would pay exactly how many days they were in for trash. And I know it seems like a lot, but I mean, how many times do we really have people moving in and out? Every month. We have maybe 3 or 4 people, and sometimes we don't have any. But I think it's fair, it's easy, it's not a complicated thing. Mark has agreed to be okay with going out and reading the meter when the person moves. And I think it would solve the headache of, so say somebody moves out the 15th and then they go to the title company and they say, okay, well, you gotta wait until the 15th of the next month to get the bill, and then they have to chase each other of who's gonna split it and have that fight. I mean, it's done in the office, it's not that big of a deal, I have no problem doing it.
It'd make it a lot fairer.
I have a question though, so if you're gonna prorate and split it like that, and we already have a minimum of 3,000, are both people just gonna be charged the 3,000, or are you saying you're gonna give them a lower minimum?
So,
Because I think that's what would be against that might have to get changed in the ordinance.
and this is where I think Reed and I talked, and I asked Steve Brock if that would be a change in the rate ordinance, and he said, no, because you're not changing the rate, because our ordinance says that the 3,000 is the 2975, and then it's 993 per thousand after that. So if you take the 2975 divided by 3, you're still getting the 993 per thousand. So if you use 2,000, it's gonna be 993 times 2. So you're not actually, because you're not changing the rate, you're prorating it. So from my understanding, and I don't know if you found anything more.
I just think the best way to phrase it is you're bringing an account to closure by removing the person's name. So that's what would trigger that, and, we can just have a closed account, we bill a final bill for whatever period of time that is, and then when the new person's on, then we send them a new bill. I think that's how the city of Lafayette does it.
Yeah, they just take over.
I'd like to look at it to confirm, but I think that we can do that under our current ordinance.
Sounds good to me.
So do we need to have them make a motion to have you just confirm that, or?
I think he can just go ahead and confirm it, and then we can
Yeah, vote on it.
vote on it.
Yeah.
So vote on it at September's meeting,
So,
or,
will you have everything together by then?
yeah, I already have my, I guess Reed just needs to confirm whether or not he needs to.
Just make sure we're staying in our ordinance, or if we need to change the ordinance, make sure we get it changed.
So for the person that addressed this issue, that bill hit August 15th, or it will hit August 15th. So I've told them just to wait until I hear. So is it okay if Reed confirms that it is allowed and we don't need to change anything? Can I go ahead and prorate them and then just bill the new person theirs?
Yeah.
All right. And then, so that's that. And then the only other thing that I have on my side is, if you remember when I took over, you guys sent me to Keystone for the training for the software. So now that Tammy's been here for a while and that Tammy is settling down, I'd like to go ahead and send her to Daleville to the Voice so that she can get the full-blown training on utility and fund.
What's the cost on that?
So since you go there, it's $560 for the day. And honestly, they haven't even billed me for mine, so I don't know if they just went ahead and, since I was new and everything, but they've actually not even billed me for when I went in February.
We'll make a motion that we send Tammy to the utility training.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
And that's it for me.
Reed, you have anything?
Yes, so Dayton United Methodist Church sent a response to the partial settlement agreement. Is requesting additional language to be added to the settlement agreement. I am fine with adding that language. I have prepared a draft to add that. If you want to do that, we would need to go ahead and vote to approve that today. The additional language addresses two things, but really the one that's a little bit of a change is that they're saying that the release does not prevent the church from pursuing other claims stemming from the agreement for utility service for credits for the installation of an oversized sewer, which we know, and then also their claim for interest accrued in obtaining a loan to fund the stormwater cost recovery fee and oversized credit cost. So what that means is that we have a release for the stormwater cost recovery fees. That issue's settled, the other ones are still open.
It seems counter to a release. You know, the oversized credit, I understand that we haven't decided on that, and we have a meeting coming up, but the interest that they feel that they be able to recover for the stormwater costs, seems like we should not release them. We should not include that language in that release.
So basically saying that they can go back and start this stuff all over again that they tried to do?
Yeah.
No, I think that what they are saying is they took out a loan, and that loan they had to pay interest on.
But that's not our problem.
Yeah.
Right, but we haven't resolved that issue. We haven't litigated that. We haven't addressed that. So, all that it means is that's still an open issue, and there's really no consideration that we've given to make that release effective anyways. So, in my opinion, I don't think that it's going to be worthwhile to spend the time to go back to the church and reject this language, because in my opinion, I think that that's the correct way to legally word it. The consideration that we have paid is the $23,000. The release that we are getting is, that they have no claim related to that stormwater cost recovery fee.
Except for getting interest on money that they claim they borrowed. Which means that they can come back to the town again and ask for damages on this interest amount. Correct?
Yeah.
And I mean,
They
whether or
have
not,
a claim for interest just in general, so they have, an amount that they actually paid out for the stormwater cost recovery fees, and then they also have, some money that they paid out on the oversize fee. So, I mean, that's what their argument potentially is. So, yeah, they can still argue that.
so why would we even have them sign a release then? Why don't we just drop a check in the mail to them? I mean, to me, this is counter to the whole meaning of a release. And plus, we still have the other open issues.
Because
I'm missing something here, I guess.
we had a contract, they had a potential claim for breach of contract. They no longer have they are releasing their claim for breach of contract related to the stormwater cost recovery fee. I mean, we didn't negotiate it down, so, I mean, I understand your point that, we're not getting a whole lot, but, I mean, they're not arguing for any costs, any
Right now.
attorney fees.
Right now.
Well, they're prevented from arguing anything related to a breach of contract for the stormwater cost recovery fee.
If you didn't sign it, they could come back and ask for even more for the stormwater or something, right? So that prevents that.
Correct.
And all these issues are separate anyway. We can either say yes or no to them as they come along.
Correct.
I guess my concern is that it says it does not prevent the church from pursuing other claims stemming from the agreement for the utility service,
Right.
which I don't,
That's,
Would this be better
That's
discussed
already
in our
stated.
meeting later this week
Sure.
at the church?
yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's already, in the part that I drafted, and when I carved out that this was a limited and partial release. I mean, the only way to get a full release is if we had a full agreement on the oversizing. And, if we were able to settle the oversizing, then we would most likely be able to get a release for the claim for interest as well. So that's kind of, what's on the table.
Okay. Save it till Thursday?
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay. Little bit business, Ron France, be at the.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me come speak to you this evening.
Can you
I
flip
wanted
on
to-
that microphone? It's on the end. Thank you.
Maybe point it out?
Yeah. There you go.
Better?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. As I said, thanks for letting me come to speak to you this evening. I'm Ron Francis. I'm the senior buyer for Butler, Fairman, and Cypher. and I'll be the one negotiating with the United Methodist Church of Dayton to acquire the easement for the Baker Farms right away. So what I brought is the actual waiver evaluations that were prepared for the two parcels. Basically, they have two different pieces because they were titled separately. So we've got two different reports. I emailed these out, but hopefully everybody got a chance to take a look at them. And then I'm prepared to, hopefully prepared to answer any questions that you might have.
On your email, I was not able to get this to pull up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know about, the other folks, but I could not access it, I guess, so.
When did you email it to us?
I sent it this morning. I sent half of it actually Saturday, and then the rest of it came this morning. The final report was not completed till about 8 o'clock this morning.
So the top page, is that for, is that the total for all the easements that are?
That's for, there's actually 2 copies of each. The top page is for each easement. One is parcel 1, the other is parcel 2. So there's actually,
$11,000 for one.
Oh,
correct.
So this, I'm gonna look at.
Yeah, 11,085 for parcel 1 and 5,265 for parcel 2.
Sorry, Todd.
So this one.
So how much is it total?
16.
17,000.
And that's the average of the 2 appraisals and all that stuff?
No, this were waiver valuations because they're under 25,000.
Okay.
We only had them with one appraisal,
Oh, okay.
which is a waiver valuation. So
Okay, I understand.
that is the number.
Have you had any meetings with the church on this?
No, I contacted them, did request to see if they would be interested in an offer with donation or just a donation. The president of the church board said no, the church was not interested in donating, and that at that time, until we had the actual offer to present, they didn't really feel it was necessary for me to meet with them.
Okay. So now you have this done, then you are ready to.
Correct. My plan right now is to, once the appraisals are approved, I can make the offer. I plan to mail them, certified mail first. Once they actually sign and receive them, that starts your 30-day clock. And then I'm going to request to meet with either the church board or the church body, either one, it doesn't matter to me,
Right.
and discuss the actual appraisals and see if we can come to an amicable solution.
Okay.
So are we just automatically putting both water and sewer on one side? I thought you guys wanted the water on one side and sewer on the other, and you had, Ashley, you had told me to talk to Malacus, which I have several times. He's got an offer on the table right now, as far as 5 days ago, the 2 things he wanted. It seemed to me like, because as we said at other meetings, and I told Michelle Watts, that the church has already told you the conditions, and they're not gonna accept this, because they want sewage on one side and water on the other side. Then the board has said, and everybody's putting pressure on Cindy and I own the land, Cindy and I on the other side, to come up with an agreement for Greg Malacus to give him the water rights over there. And that's what you've been pushing me for a year, actually.
Ron, I have not been pushing you, I just
Well-
made mention, and make common sense for me to,
Yeah, well,
for you to do that, but if you don't want to do that, that's your deal, you know.
you've been pushing me for a year. In fact,
Pushed you,
you offered to Well, let me finish something. You offered to actually not take my land if I talked to Malacus.
Oh, please.
So,
I'm gonna call BS on that.
yeah, well, that's not,
BS.
it's on there. But anyway, Michelle, I thought you guys were gonna, or you're doing all this without even talking to the other landowners, right? You're just automatically gonna
Well,
put the water and sewage here.
I have no knowledge of that, other than our direction was to appraise the actual easement on the church's property to contain both the water and the sewer. And that's the direction that we move forward with.
Okay, and is this for the court process later or something? I don't quite understand why they're doing all this. With the church back in 2002, the town made the church get their own easements, which they did, at their own cost, which they did. And it's right in your utilities agreement in 2002, so why did the church have to get their own easements back then, and now Malacus doesn't have to get his easements? It's right here. Part of your utility agreement, the owner developer shall provide all easements necessary to provide utility, water and sewer and stormwater service at no cost to the town. So the church had to provide that at no cost to the town. Why are we paying? I think Michelle said this, what you're doing now, before it even gets to court, is almost $10,000, like $9,800.
Pretty close to that, yes.
So you're spending, this board is spending $9,800, and you haven't even asked the owners on the other, you haven't even tried to negotiate the water to get it on one side? Why would we do that?
Well,
You haven't
actually,
even tried that.
the cost to split the easement, you'd have to actually acquire on the other side as well, which
Yeah.
is going to basically cost about the same amount, an additional 10.
Yeah, but the town has always wanted,
it would probably
our whole entire town has always had water on one side and sewage on the other side. We're only combining this, our town manager said they ought to be on separate sides, the city of Lafayette said they ought to be. We're only doing this because the board thought they couldn't get the water rights on our side of the road. So, we're working out an agreement to get the water rights on our side of the road. So why would we spend all this money, and you know the church has already said they're gonna say, no, we're not gonna accept it. So you're basically throwing this $10,000 out the window and gonna end up in court. So why would we wanna do all that?
Why did we decide to go down to one side and not talk to the other side? Is because when it first started, somebody on the other side didn't want to give us a hookup because they said there was no easement there. But then we found out that we didn't have to have one. Well,
You still-
now all of a sudden you want to go down your side.
No.
When you didn't have a hold on us no more. So
No.
that's why we decided to go
I
down
didn't
the
even
other
know
side.
till the one meeting that came out here that there was no, I've always thought there was an easement on that side. And they showed that there was. I came out here and what's the engineer said to me in the back room that there was no easement. I was surprised about that. Up until that time, we thought there was an easement. We always fought the subdivision like we've always fought it. But now it's getting down to the end and you're spending
And you're wondering why that
tens and
decision-
tens and thousands of dollars.
And you were wondering why that decision back then was made to go down one side.
Well, I don't know that it was. When did that, show me the meeting we decided to go down one side? How long ago was that?
There's been several meetings.
Yeah. I mean, a
Several
couple
meetings,
months
there's been-
ago,
There's been plans presented.
and a couple months ago on the tapes, you guys are asking about, like you said, Ashley, we'll go talk to them and tell them that you can put the water. Malacus, 2 weeks ago, told me that he didn't want to go to court. He said that if we can work out something to put the water on the other side, so we gave him the first proposal, and he didn't like everything on it, and then we just gave him another proposal.
Well, great, you know, if you guys come to terms, that's fantastic. I'm sure we'll look at it if that happens.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Meanwhile,
Why wouldn't you look at it
Meanwhile,
first
you-
instead of going spending $10,000? It seems like at least Michelle Watts said at the last meeting, well, Ron, will you guys give those water rights? And I said, well, have their lawyer contact us.
great.
Yes, have your lawyer contact, and he never did. So then I called Greg Malacus myself.
So you know, you plan for the worst and you hope for the best, okay? So it's easier to move water across the road than it is to move sewer across the road, okay? So with the church's property, the sewer is on their side of the road. So you continue, you have to have an easement with the church regardless if there's water and sewer both or just
Well,
sewer. And the easement size is also the same. The water does not add any more to the easement.
Well, first
So-
of all, the sewer,
So I'll finish this. So, so we have to have the easement with the church,
No, you
if
don't.
for nothing else, for sewer, okay? If you come to terms with Malacus or whoever you're talking to on those water, then that's great, we'll take a look at that. But we have to move forward. In the meantime, the sewer's gonna be on the church's side of the road, and the water's gonna be on the church's side of the road as it stands right now, unless you and Malacus, Baker Farms can come together
Well,
on
go
things.
ahead and
So
keep spending the money.
that's why this gentleman's, his firm is involved, is to keep the ball rolling here, so to speak.
Wants to keep spending the money, I think at least.
Now, if we go to your side of the road,
Excuse me,
I imagine that, you'll want compensation and stuff. So, there would be added cost to the town, and it may be worth it, and it may not, I don't know.
Well, the easements aren't the cost of the town. The church, you didn't charge, the church had to pay for the road easements, guys.
So,
That's what is in our development guides, everything. The town, the builder gets the easements and pays for them. We don't, the town doesn't do that, but that's still getting back to, I would think, I told Michelle 2 weeks ago, well, why don't you even ask the other side before you just jump into it? She emails the board one night and says, can I go ahead with this? And we started, I guess.
right.
And I don't know, I don't think we really okayed, I don't remember us ever okaying the contract. Tyrone, you okayed that.
Yeah, I agree, Ron. I think the board needs to take action tonight to ratify the contract, because the last board meeting, there was a discussion, but we didn't have an engagement from BF&S Right-of-Way Services. My understanding that contract has been signed, but we do need a vote to ratify that action, in my opinion.
Make a
I
motion
would
to
think
ratify
so.
that action.
Second?
So you can make a motion to ratify that action for signing the contract.
Second.
The motion is second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion was made at the motion was made at the previous meeting to hire BF&S to take care of everything. And yeah, obviously, contract's involved in that, and
Motion made. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No,
Motion carried.
no.
so the previous meeting, there was a motion made to have BF&S take care of negotiating with the church and working with them to get the easement. And the fact that, the signature is needed on a contract, to me, that was assumed.
Well, it's also
When we
actually-
make that type of a motion.
Yeah, I did not review the contract before it was signed, one, and then two, is my understanding is that instead of me contacting directly with the church to try to get to either enforce the utility service agreement or have the easement signed, that BF&S Right-of-Way Services is going to be engaged for that. What ended up happening was that they were engaged for that in the contract, plus these right-of-way services, including appraisals and all that.
Right.
So that's why I think that it's necessary to ratify the contract that was signed, because the scope of the contract that was signed is different than the board vote at the last meeting, in my
That's right,
opinion.
we didn't vote on the full thing at the last meeting.
Well, I disagree with that. When we,
Because
I need to
it would be an
replay the
hourly
tape or
rate.
something, but in my mind, I made the motion. In my mind, I want BF&S, to take care of the whole thing, easements, talking
Well,
to
Here
the church.
here it is, word for
Okay.
word, Ashley.
Oh,
I make a motion to have BF&S to do such things that help us in talking with the church, negotiating with the church to get this easement. Not to appraise the land and not to go to court, not to do all, Michelle is
That's all
telling me.
involved in that.
Michelle is, no, that's a lot further. What they're doing is a lot more than just plain getting easements and stuff.
You're trying to split hairs here, Ron.
Well, and you guys are
I'm sure
okay.
that's the way it goes.
You didn't even ask the price. I think you want to know the price of this stuff.
You spent an hour on the phone with Reed earlier this month, to confirm all your points on this, so, you know, you're trying to split hairs.
So then the second point on the legal side of where we are with having this is, if we have to go to court, there's two potential claims. So one is to enforce the utility service agreement, where the town would be getting an easement for no cost. So if that failed, then the town could move to enforce through eminent domain to get the easements and pay for them. So, you know, if we did not have this work done, we wouldn't be able to go to court when we go to court with both of those claims, and potentially we would have to just go to try to enforce utility service agreement, and if that failed, then we'd be way delayed and have to do that. So that's, you know, what you guys kind of decided is there were two options. I think we had that conversation at the last meeting, but the benefit that we have now legally is, you know, that if the church will not agree, if we cannot reach an agreement, which hopefully we can, you know, we now have the ability to go forth with everything that we could do, because when you file a lawsuit, you know, try to accomplish a goal, you want to have all of the potential legal avenues available to you.
Right.
So,
One thing, what, on
So
another-
you're, in essence, saying you're good with this?
no, I think it's the town council's decision. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. As long as the town council is, you know, fine with going this route, I think that's perfectly fine. And I think it's, all the action that needed to be taken was to ratify that contract that has been signed. So.
Do we need to take action to have this signed? Or is-
This is just a report on the evaluation, right?
Right.
No, I mean, unless Ron has any action you think needs to be taken at this point.
Other than, I mean, if they're gonna sign them and want me to present the offer, then yes, we would need to do that, but if not, then I'll hold off until told to do otherwise.
I think
Well, I mean,
if other board members are good with it, I think we need to sign it and keep moving forward here.
so you want to pay for these is what you're, I mean, I just want to make sure that you understand. You want to just give up the argument that the church is going to provide these at the town to no cost, and we want to make an offer to just pay for them.
If it would keep us out of court with the church, then, I hate to say it, but, I think the town may be money ahead by paying for the easements rather than fighting with the church in court. So,
Then why would,
that's
We
one.
want to wait until we have a meeting with the church on Thursday.
Let's
to-
wait until we have the meeting. and
let the church answer, yeah, because
Well,
that's
the-
the wrong answer.
I think the church has
Are we gonna have?
told us that,
Word from them on Thursday? Will
They told us they're not
Or are they
going
gonna
to
delay
sign
it?
it.
It's my understanding that everything is done regarding the oversizing credits. There's not going to be any further discussion. It's just that is a time for the board to have further discussion or take further action. So, either saying, just taking any action. I mean, there's the ability just to say, we've decided, after further consideration, that this is a no, that we're willing to, offer something in the middle. I don't think that on that issue, there's going to be any response from the church, but, those are also separate issues. But, we might be able to still negotiate with the church regarding the easements. I don't know.
I,
I think they should get signed and sent to their meeting, the church meeting, so they can actually look it over.
I think this, again, I look at this as an olive branch to the church, kind of like I did with the other money. And I think if the church will, be on board with this, I think it's money well spent. They've told us several times and over the past year and a half that, You know, they view the service utility agreement a much different way than what we view it, so.
Well, they've also said that they want water on one side and sewage on the other.
I don't think it's for them to dictate where any of the utilities are put on, you know,
Well, I think
The
they are.
the
You're going
easements
out
are-
of the norm of what we did for 30 years. I think they can dictate it.
I think don't we tell them where we want it?
all right.
No, you just don't tell everybody where you want everything.
Developers want it.
The width is gonna be the same whether it's sewage only or sewer and water.
Okay, actually, you keep saying that. The town made the church give an easement years ago for the sewer only, and that was 15 foot. It's the same depth going out there, it might drop one more foot. So why would they now, if they decided to just do the sewage, why would they need more than 15 foot, where everywhere in town is 15 foot, and out there on half their property, it's already 15 foot? Why all of a sudden would they need to go 35 foot so you can get the water in there, is the reason why?
Because the sewer out there is, was it 16 feet?
16 foot
16
deep.
feet deep. And a 15-foot easement is not wide enough to dig a 16 foot.
On my property, it's 16 foot, and there's a 15-foot easement, actually. I watched them do it.
You know, some of the easements that we're talking about here are temporary easements, and other ones are permanent
That's
easements.
besides the point, you're
No,
still
it's not
saying
besides the
that.
point, Ron, because after the job is done, then the easement goes back narrow. But while you're doing the work and digging it, you have to have somewhere to put the spills, okay? That's called a temporary easement.
They didn't have
When
to
they
before,
work it.
actually, so.
Well, I don't know, I wasn't out there when they dug it, but.
Yeah, well, it's 15 foot, go look at the records, it's all 15 foot on my property and on the church's property.
I don't know how
And they
you
dug it
use-
and they put it in the 15 foot.
With the standards.
You guys put the 35 foot, because you want that water so
All right.
bad over there.
Well, let's get back to this.
So we're signing these or not?
To at least read them, have a day to read them, and do it at the Thursday meeting or something?
That's what we're thinking, doing it Thursday meeting. So. You know, we're all,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Utility report.
This round. Okay, the first item under water is last winter we had the valve boxes replaced and markers put in south of the railroad on the main coming from the west. One of those is, it got broken off. Ron had brought that to my attention, the one that's farthest south of the field. I went out there, the valve, they farmed around the valve box, and nothing was damaged there. I'm guessing the arm on a plant or something caught that and snapped that off. But just making you aware of it, it's actually something that I can repair myself. But of course, our concern is if the valve boxes themselves can get moved, or it kind of defeats the purpose of the $1,980 that we spent on that, so I'm just making you aware of that. So, under wastewater, this might take a bit of time, but this spring, with all the rain, we saw a significant increase in our wastewater treatment cost. Utility clerk, Tammy, put together this graph where it showed the orange bar is rainfall, the blue one is the amount of wastewater we charge for treatment.
Nice job.
Good. So, just some base information. So an average month, we purchase 2.3 million gallons of water from Lafayette. So we would hope that that would be the maximum amount of water that we would send out, or wastewater we would send out. Actually, it would be a little bit less, but if we just use that 2.3 million gallons, saying gallon for gallon, all things equal, that's what we should have. 2.3 million gallons cost us $16,000 a month to pump to Lafayette, okay? It's around, it's just under $8,000 per million gallons. The 2.3 million gallons is what we average, what the average should be, what the average is for the water. So, and if you go to the second page, showing this spring, March, April, May, and June, we were at or above 3 million gallons. So our bill during those 3 months, or 4 months, was closer to $24,000 a month. Okay, so we saw a $6,000 to $7,000 per month increase for those 4 months. Okay, if you look at that first graph that shows all of 2018, you do see some correlation in between rainfall and how much was sent out, but it's not clear cut. You know, it doesn't show that just because we had an extra rain that our bill went up, but we are now seeing that. So I looked at the nice thing about the emission control system that you had put in at the lift stations is that it gives me a daily report telling me how much each lift station has ran, and also will send me an alert if it's running more than normal. So whenever I go back and I go through those reports, during this time period, these 4 months, the Deerfield, or the Cemetery and Prairie Lane lift stations, they saw about a 10% increase. The College Street lift station saw about a 25% increase. The Deerfield lift station more than doubled. So this discussion is primarily, although it isn't accounting for 100% of the increased flow, it is by far the majority of the increased flow that you're seeing on that second page of the wastewater being sent to Lafayette. So, looking at the as-built, there's approximately 7,400 lineal feet of sewer main in Deerfield. I received a quote from Echo Infrastructure, and their price is $0.85 per foot. So at that cost, it would be about $6,300 to have all of the sewer mains in Deerfield inspected and cambered. Okay? So we've spent, on average, about $6,000 more per month for the last 4 months because of this, and I'm just trying to do a cost justification on it. So it's cost us about $24,000 more in wastewater fees than it should. We can get it inspected for about $6,300 and come back with some information. Now, is there a guarantee that it's going to show this? You know, a lot of times in other systems I've looked at, there's several things wrong. It's not just one major hole that all this rainwater is getting into. It's several things that need repair. It could be downspouts and sump pumps that are illegally tied in to our sanitary wastewater system. So it won't be, I can't promise you that it'll be, hey, here's a problem, we fix it, and it's all better now. But it's a place to start, and if we don't start somewhere, and this is the obvious place to start because the pumps are running twice as much during the wet season at Deerfield, it's a good starting point.
Do the houses in Deerfield have basements for the sump pumps?
Not very many. I'd say 95% don't have basements. So that makes you lean towards, well, maybe it's downspouts. You know, they're supposed to be tied into, if anything, the stormwater system, which Deerfield has a very good stormwater system. So you're thinking right. So that leans us towards, well, that must mean that it's coming through infiltration, which is cracks in the pipe or the seams where the joints are put together. But this is a way to find out.
There's any way it can be coming through the field where the pipes ran from going out of town, like where it starts? Do we have,
Say that
like
again?
out in the field where we have the, you know,
Field
the
drainage.
field drainage, if it can be cracked, or like, you know, how the fire hydrant got hit by the farmer and something around.
Oh, out there?
Something could be,
Well, that wouldn't affect the runtime hours for the Deerfield lift station, because it would all be gravity flow.
We don't have sewer in the field out there, so.
We do. Yeah, we have sanitary sewer out there for 70% of that towards Haggerty we do, maybe 60%. So I guess what I'm asking is approval to hire Echo Infrastructure for approximately $6,300 to do this camera inspection.
What was the percentage again of increase?
It more than doubled in Deerfield, 25% increase in College, less than 10% on Prairie and Cemetery.
and the Cameron's a lot better to do than the smoke out, right?
Yes. Yeah. Cost more, but
You also have a file, a permanent file, as they do that.
you know, and it doesn't make sense because it's the newest sanitary sewer system in town. So if you look at the first page, you don't see the correlation in between rainwater and increased wastewater flow. So something has changed out there between 2018 and the spring of 2019, where now it's showing. But yeah, I think it's money well spent if we could move forward with it, so.
I'd make a motion, because me and Ashley had looked into that a couple of years ago, to get the camera, and never actually got finished.
I'd second that motion. And I'd also add to it, we send our sewage to Lafayette, and Lafayette has voiced their concern with the town over the years over the I&I problem that we have. For them to treat normal sewage, they have their normal treatment that they go through, and then if you have a lot of extra water in that sewer, it screws up the way they have to treat, so it causes extra work on their end
It
to
does.
deal with things, so.
And they like for you to be proactive, to be paying attention, to be proactive on keeping the stormwater.
And as Mark said, one of the biggest reasons we went to mission control back when we did is so that we could try to identify areas that needed help, so.
Have a motion and a second.
Can you speak what the motion is?
What's the name of the company again?
Echo Infrastructure.
Make a motion to hire Echo Infrastructure to do the camera infiltration of our pipes, Deerfield Commons.
Have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Next item is about that mission control program that we have. I received an email from them saying that it runs off the Verizon cell towers, and Verizon is changing their signal in some way that our radios at some point this year won't be functioning the way they should be. So this company that sold us these radios will supply us with new radios that are, I think the way they describe it is LTE friendly. So they'll replace the radios and I think it's kind of like a SIM card that you have in your phones. They'll supply all the material, but it'll be up to us to swap them out. And they'll give you the instructions on it, and I think it's something that we can do in-house. But it is something that will probably be done this fall, just making you aware of that.
That's through BL Anderson,
Well, it won't be. It'll be direct from this.
correct from the.
The company's called 123 Mission Control, but it'll be directly between them and us.
Okay.
Okay. Under streets, so each quarter I'm required to submit a quarterly report to NDOT concerning the Yost Road project, and that is actually sent to the NPO, Tippecanoe County. They approve it and then it's sent on, and that's been completed. The community crossing grant application. So it was due August 2nd. We got it submitted July 22nd so that they would have it before the deadline and could review it, see if there's any changes or anything different they needed. There was not. So the community crossing grant, it was 3 different applications. The total cost for the projects was $225,600. It's a 75-25 grant, so our share of it is $56,400 if we get all 3 projects approved. We probably won't hear from them before September. The problem with that is that the later it gets in the season, the less chance we have of actually getting the work done this fall. But we'll try. You know, we're waiting on them to give us the okay, and we'll see what happens. Yost Drive preliminary engineering contract is the next item. So the budgeted amount for this contract between the town and BF&S is $450,000. The negotiated contract price, as you see there, is $439,000. That's shared at an 80-20 cost share between the federal government and ourselves. That means the town would have out-of-pocket expense of $87,800. So this contract has been submitted to NDOT. They reviewed it and approved it. Both the project coordinator and the project manager did. I've also had Reed take a look at it. Did you have any other comments on it, Reed?
No.
It requires a signature from each one of you. I would then submit it back to NDOT, and it would be the official start of the project per se. It would allow for release of funds as we move forward. Really, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have about the contract. One thing that Reed had asked for clarification on. So this is just for the preliminary engineering. There'll be a negotiated contract for right-of-way acquisition. There'll be a third contract for construction inspection. And so this is just the first step. There'll be 2 more contracts after this. I keep Area Plan Commission in the loop on anything that we discuss or that we do, and they've looked at all this as well. So any questions about it? Carly's the engineer for, this is Carly Sheet, she's the engineer for BF&S for the project. I'm sure she would be glad to answer any questions you might have. You know, right now that was planted in corn, at least the north half of it is, so it's going to delay things a bit. Hopefully this fall we'll get started on it.
Just have to use real tall stakes.
Actually, I think they're going to use a drone.
Yeah, we can drones some of that north half.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say we delay because it's such a long schedule that it's on track.
Sure.
So any questions about it?
Be good to get the project started.
It will. And this is a major step in moving forward with it.
Dayton's talked about it for 25 years.
Yeah. So I think that we would want a motion approving the contract and then have each of you sign it. And that way I could get it sent off this week, hopefully.
Make a motion we approve the preliminary engineering contract for Yost Drive project.
Second.
There's a motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Let me get the signature page here. So Colin and Carly, so this is my first time around in doing this. Is this how it unfolds and?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you'll get a signed copy sent to NDOT, and you'll give us a copy of it. You can send it to an email or to Carly or I, just so we can put it on our records as well. Thank you. Once you get those, you have to NDOT, and that's.
I can find it.
It's on page 17.
17.
Not back.
Sign this one, too, right for this one.
What's that?
We sign this. All of
I think everyone signs.
I think NDOT, from speaking with NDOT, I think they're anxious to get, with all projects, they hate anything that stalls a project. They like to see progress on any money that they have set aside for something. So I think they'll be glad to get this back and move it forward.
You talking about the same NDOT? This was supposed to be done in what, 98, and it was 10 years later and $2 million more.
So next item is scrap metal. So there's a storage room at the water meter station over on Haggerty. I started cleaning up. I found 50 or 60 old water meters, brass water meters, so I'll clean those up. We've got many old street signs and street posts. I would like to, just to clean things up, get some bids on scrap metal. There's not a lot of, with Oscar Linsky around, there's not a lot of competition with him, but I'll try to get a couple bids like we did. I think we were required to last time before we sold all those old meters. So I'd like to move forward with that. Last item is the Ford dump truck. It's in the shop right now, just getting the oil changed, transmission serviced, and the brakes looked at on it, so we'll have it all ready for this winter. Any questions about anything?
On that dump truck,
Yeah.
there was an accident with it years ago, backed into the police building. And I don't think we ever got that. It's bent, so I don't think we can even get the tailgate on it if we had to.
Is that right?
There's a bend in there. I don't know if you can take that down to weed.
There's a bend in the tailgate or in the bed
In the
itself?
bed itself. We've been meaning to get that fixed, but we've never taken it down there to weed it. Because he said he had to cut it out. Well,
Rebuild it.
there's no beating it back, so, yeah.
I'll have them look at it after I get the truck back. Anything else?
Thank you. Comments from the residents?
Sue Kiper, 750 Shady Lane. I have two things. The first thing is, do we have enough money to pay for all this? I mean, we're a small town, and I keep hearing 450,000 and all this, and do we have it in the budget to pay for this stuff?
For which parts?
All of it, everything that's been,
The $1 million part, we're gonna have to get a bond for, but the smaller portions, like our 20%, I think will be fine. Yeah, it's the $1 million, our portion of the $4 or $5 million is what we've got, that's, yeah.
Kind of staggering all that money.
And we're working on budget right now too, so that's all of the stuff that we're looking in for, to
Okay,
see, yeah,
okay.
With that 439 that you spoke of,
yeah.
only 87,000 is our portion.
For now, that was the first of three.
But that was for the engineering report,
Okay, so we pay the 90 for starting.
87, yes.
Yeah.
Our estimate is, what was it, a little bit over 800,000?
Oh, yeah, for our portion right now.
Our portion is a little bit over 800,000. We have, we had around 400,000 set aside that we could safely use right now. And you know, you're not paying all the money tomorrow, you're paying it over the course of 4 or 5 years.
Well, the 800,000 will be in one shot. All of the rest, it will be staggered. The 800,000 has to be paid before construction starts, correct, Mark?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Construction part of it.
But
Right.
engineering takes
Yeah.
two or 3 years for engineering. And so you and I won't see concrete out there until 2025 or something,
PP construction, actually,
2024. So.
And my second question was, for the Methodist Church, you know, if you piggyback the sewer and the water, what happens 20 years down the road when there's a leak? Isn't it better if they're separate and you don't have maintenance on one goes bad, or, you know, like sewer or water we have here now, if that's a problem?
We had a couple of people speak in a meeting over the last several months concerning just that. And there is a separation between the lines. They're not laid right next to each other. There
No, they would
is a
have to be
significant
different
separation.
depths.
Yes.
But still, you're gonna have one on top.
And it's more common than a lot of people have been led to believe, to have them both together on one side of the road. You know, that is.
But it's not the best case.
It's better to have them separated. That's why they do it 99% of the time. They separate them, but the 1 or 2% are probably unusual cases.
I don't think those percentages are correct.
I think so,
Yeah,
because
they
when
are.
we were doing subdivisions, it was always one on one side, one
Yeah,
on.
but when you do a subdivision, you own all the land, or the developer owns all the land, so you have a lot of freedom, okay? And, you know, in this particular instance, you know,
You have the same freedom
We
if you
don't.
want. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Cindy Marr, 749 Shady Lane. I assume that BF&S contract sets out the parameters of the agreement, and the work to be performed, and the cost. None of that was discussed at a public meeting, so it seems to me, Tyrone, that you violated open door law when you went down to BF&S and signed it without approval of a public meeting. I know Reed is trying to rectify that, but I think that you already did it. But I don't know why the town is involved in this anyway. Where does it say that the town has to provide easements for a proposed subdivision? All the time we were fighting about having the costs included in the fiscal plan, we were told the costs didn't have to be in the fiscal plan because it's nothing but a cornfield out there. Well, it's still nothing but a cornfield. We don't need to provide easements to a cornfield. The developers need to get the easements so that they can put their subdivision in. They can't get a subdivision approval without the easements, and it's their responsibility and at their cost. In the church's utility service agreement, another council made them acquire the easements because that's the way Dayton has always done it. It's the developer's responsibility to install the water and sewer and to acquire the easements. So I don't know why you think that you have to be involved in acquiring their subdivision. or their easements for them. But it should certainly not be at the town expense. You know, if you proceed with this, I hope it's made clear to the developers that it will be at their expense and not at the people of the town. I don't think it's fair in any way, shape, or form to make the people of Dayton subsidize the developers' profits. They should have had their easements acquired before they ever began this project, and it's not the town's problem, it's their problem. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else? Tammy? Ron?
I just wanted to say that the two criteria for Malacus that he wanted to know was the cost of the easement, which is real reasonable, and he agreed on the phone and said he would sign a contract and stand up in front of the town and say that there would be no costs for the water or sewage or what it took to put them in. And he would sign that. Now, that's basically, I think, my goal, to watch out for the costs of this town and the coalition and everything, why they did this stuff before, to be sure that Malacus, or the developer, he's a nice guy, any developer pays, they're making the money and they pay for all the costs. And Greg, 2 weeks ago, said he would do that. And, but something happened in the last 2 weeks that I don't know what changed it. Maybe it was because he found out that BF&S is going ahead and you guys gave them the approval to push it through another way. But, you know, we'll see if he replies to
Yeah, we
the
should have a meeting with BFS, Greg and us, and so everybody's on the same page on who's saying what.
I listened to the last meeting tonight, and that's what I suggested the last meeting. We all get together and we all hash it out, so keep spending this money and spending this money. And maybe we won't come to a conclusion, but the likelihood is we probably would come to something a lot better than what we're doing now, because I can tell you it's going to go to court, so, you know, and we would like to not really go to court, so, as a town.
Anything else?
Yeah, there was supposed to be a new resident here tonight. He said he was coming. I don't know why he didn't show up, so I'll just address it. He wanted the board to address it. So 767 Main, a gentleman just bought it. Apparently the house is trashed. They're demolishing, or they're tearing down the house within 7 to 10 days. They're on a well. And they're building a completely new house. It's supposed to be built within 2 to 3 months. And he plans on connecting to city water. He feels that he should not have to pay the minimum right now because they're tearing down the house and the house won't be there and everything. So we explained to him that there was a minimum and that he would have to take it up with the board. So I just want to confirm that that's where the board still wants to stick, since he's going to compare.
Everybody else in town, and this, until we change it, has to pay that minimum. And he told me about it, I don't know, almost a week ago, and he said 6, 7, 8 days. Well, it'd be interesting to see if that house gets torn down. I'd be surprised if it does.
I think he said 8 to 10 days.
Okay, but,
Did he?
7 to 10, yeah.
but everybody else, until
Right.
we change our ordinances and stuff, if you change it for this guy, you'll change it for all these other houses that nobody's in them.
Leaving the people that aren't hooked up to it or paying the minimum, so.
But if there's no house
Yeah, if it's a
on the property, you know, we've had a couple of those instances, you know, house caught on fire, they had to tear it down, stuff like that. And I don't believe that there was,
Yeah, we changed it for the guy that died up here, and we didn't charge him, and we still don't charge him, but that's once the house is gone.
yeah, once the house is gone,
Yeah.
so.
But this guy's
Somebody
saying,
dying and somebody just tearing a house down and building another one, that's.
yeah, that's right, this guy's gonna build another house, so
So
in
he
another
still
month or
needs to
2 or
pay
so.
the minimum then,
Yeah.
and all of that.
Till the house is gone.
Till the house is gone, or while the house is gone?
He needs to pay it, I think, for the whole time, till he builds his new house,
Yeah.
like we do
Okay,
for
so
everybody else.
He needs to set, because he bought the house July 24th, so he needs to set up service and pay whether the house is standing or not.
I disagree with that.
I think so. I mean, there's houses that sat empty forever, whether it was torn down or not. Somebody owns that lot, gonna pay it, so.
Well, that's where we found out that, I mean, that's a whole another can of
Well,
worms.
we had a house, we've had a couple houses burned to the ground.
Correct. But we have an ordinance that states if you are not connected, you do not get charged a minimum bill.
Correct.
Correct.
So if there's no house on the lot, I don't think that there should be a bill.
Yeah, I think if they were never connected, right?
Well, they're paying the sewer part.
But they're paying, but it's just an empty lot.
It will be,
I
yeah.
mean, because is there other empty lots, like where those people tore down their house up here on 38, that historic house that got torn down? Do they have to pay a separate water bill for that? Because
I
there's,
don't think so,
Yeah.
because the house isn't sitting there.
So once he rips it down, I'm saying we can talk about it and okay it, but until that happens, and then when he rebuilds it, puts it up, he gets a building permit, and then on his occupancy, he pays for it again.
because won't he have to pay the cost recovery fee too, because he's never, the tap-on fee, 'cause he's never been connected to
There is,
water?
Well, I'm assuming, yeah.
Mark is researching language right now on that. He and I talked about that before the meeting, so there is some fees that he has to pay. Just, if you bought a lot here in town, you build a new house, then you have to pay
You gotta pay
$450 for this and
Right.
so on and so forth. So,
$350.
So where are we sitting, that he is, that he
So-
needs to pay? Because like, since
You
he
need
bought
to-
it the 24th, he doesn't actually get his first bill until September. Well, if that's the case, the house is supposedly gonna be gone.
We
For
should be,
his August
he should be
usage.
paying for the days that the house is standing.
yes.
And once it rips down, he's gonna come and apply, and we make a motion like we did the other two houses, and say he has no bill. Then he goes down, gets a building permit, and goes, and then once he gets an occupancy, we start billing him again.
Once he has his tap,
So will
pays his
I,
hookup fee, then he starts paying again.
so
Yes.
will we get like the demolition permit?
You
Or like,
should.
We should.
so if he is, if he's got it, it should be
They'll
being
come,
sent
they'll
to
come to
us.
you first. They'll have to send it
And,
to town.
and they don't, then you'll get a building permit after that. Anybody else?
Make a motion, we adjourn the utility.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Dayton Town Board is now in session. We'll call the roll here. I'd like to ask for approval of minutes for July 8th, 2019.
Make a motion, we approve the board minutes from July 8th, 2019.
Second.
Any questions on the claims docket, August 12th, 2019?
Make a motion, we approve the claims docket from August 12th, 2019.
Second.
Fund report, July 31st, 2019. Somebody make a motion to approve?
That is something new. State Board of Accounts has informed me that you guys need to be approving the fund report every month. So that's never been in the meetings. Now it will be moving forward.
Make a motion, we approve the funds report for July 31st, 2019.
Second.
Motion made, properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Allowance docket, July 1st, July 31st, 2019. Ask for approval.
I make a motion, we approve the allowance docket July 1st through July 31st, 2019.
Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval appropriation report, July 31st, 2019. Ask for approval.
Make a motion, we approve the revenue report for July 31st, 2019.
Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're
Did you
gonna,
do the revenue?
Didn't revenue, that's supposed to be appropriation, but he said revenue.
Okay,
Sorry, I was on the wrong line.
oh,
okay, that's fine.
okay. I would ask for approval of the appropriations report, July 31st, 2019.
Make a motion, we approve the appropriation report from July 31st, 2019.
Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I would like to move Heather Maddox, Partnership Specialist of the United Census, up before the clerk treasurer's report.
Thank you.
we all need one of these? Does everyone want, that's a lot of printed stuff, okay. Driving out here, I thought, I'm gonna put this all in electronic form, and then that way I can push those little buttons.
To everything.
All right. Like he said, I'm Heather Maddox, and I'm a partnership specialist with the United States Census. I know some of you through other things that we've all been involved in. But I'm excited to come here. I know it's a little early, but to talk to you about next year, once again, is the census. Census Day is April 1st, 2020. And is, if you don't know, it is constitutionally mandated that every 10 years, we count all the residents in the United States, and it was so important that it's actually Article 2 of the Constitution. So we are interested in counting everyone once, only once, and in the right place. We count everyone because you provide services to everyone if they live within your town. So there's a few things I want to share that's new this time. We all think of the census and we think you get that form, you fill it out, mail it back in, or if you don't do that, then someone comes and knocks on your door, right? Well, for the first time this year, there's 3 ways to fill the census out, or next year, this census. Folks can do it online. If people aren't comfortable going online, they can actually call and they'll talk to a real person, so it won't be automated. They'll talk to someone that'll help them. Or they can do the traditional form. So what's going to happen is about March-ish of next year, people will get a postcard or they'll start seeing stuff. Trying to direct, because obviously the cheapest way is for people to fill out online. And then we can get them off our list and we know that they're counted. So it's going to be kind of pushing people to do one of those 2 first options, fill it out online or call. If you don't do that, then as we get closer to April, they'll get the forms in the mail. If you're one that, well, I just got the form in the mail and I didn't fill it out, then that's when, about the end of April, you're going to get someone knocking on your door to say, hey, we need you to fill this out. Why is it important? Well, there's 2 things we always think of, right? You talk about redistricting, so it counts who lives in your town, and it helps when we go into look at town districts or congressional districts, city council districts, that kind of thing. Also, though, it kind of ties into some of the things you were talking about earlier. There's $675 billion annual dollars at stake. That's annual. So this is grants you were talking about, things that you want to get done in town. Now, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get it, but it does give the data that when you apply for these grants, and you can use this data for these grants, then it helps with that. There's also in your folders, there's a list of all kinds of things that the census helps with. Early childhood, schools, emergency planning, that kind of thing. So why am I here talking to you? Because what we're trying to do this year, and they tried it a little bit in 2010, but this year they're really pushing that we need everyone to kind of promote the census and make sure that all your folks get counted. It's kind of community cheerleaders, trusted voices that do simple things like, I know you guys have a couple town pages, right? Facebook pages, you probably have a website. Post things on your website. When I came in the other day, Tammy, she was nice enough, she took flyers, posted them about jobs, because this also includes jobs, because we do need people when it gets closer next year to go around and enumerate. Those are the folks that go door to door. So we want people, obviously, that know the town doing those jobs, or people that are familiar even with Lafayette doing those jobs. They're decent jobs, you do them on your own time, it's $14 an hour. So it's a perfect second job for someone, or someone that maybe stays home, a retiree, that kind of thing. You just have to be a citizen, over 18, and everybody does go through a background check. So as we're leading up to it, promoting the jobs, that, hey, come and apply, they do that online. It's a simple application online. It's a little bit different than what you're used to, because they ask questions that they call them biodata questions. So, like, Ron, if you don't like and I'm not saying that you don't, but if it's someone that doesn't like being around people, you know, or isn't comfortable interacting with people, it's probably not the job for them. So they ask them questions that kind of narrows in and lets them know if you'd be the right person for the job. So those are some things that we need you to do, or we'd like you to do. Security, I know, is always an issue. The census data is secure. They don't even share it with other agencies. They don't share it with the IRS. They don't share it with Congress. They don't even share it with the president. What they get only is statistical data. So once we go through next year, get the counting done on April 1st, we enumerate, or we compile all the data. It's released to the president by December 31st of 2020, and then it will be released to Congress by April of 2021. And again, that's just statistical data. So sometimes people don't fill it out for various reasons. Distrust of the government is one. And you know, it is very secure. It's never been hacked, and it has been challenged in court, and the census always wins. There's never been a time where that data is released. And you know, I looked you guys up. You guys actually do pretty good. You only have about a 14% non-response rate, and that's really good. So, you know, let's try to get that up a little bit. You also have about 81% of your folks here have computers. It seems like you have pretty good broadband access here. So I think if we could really push for people to fill it out online and fill it out early, that would be great. Hard to count populations. Sometimes if you want to focus on them, so what are those people that where English isn't their first language? It's not rocket science. People that are transient, low-income people tend to maybe not be quick to fill it out. And an interesting statistic is children under 5 are very undercounted, and that's all over, which I thought was kind of odd. But when I was told why, it kind of makes sense. Custody arrangements sometimes grandparents maybe have the kids, mom and dad put them on their thing, you know, for whatever reason, or people think grandma's putting it on theirs, mom doesn't put it on hers, so they're not counted. Well, that's not good, because that's preschool dollars, early childhood dollars that need. So just groups like that. I mean, if you have daycares here, you know someone that runs the daycares, maybe say, hey, could you help us, you know, get this information out to the parents? One thing you could do that I'm within the next month or so, something easy, it's something just symbolic, but kind of a feel-good thing, maybe pass a proclamation, you know, stating the town of Dayton is supportive of the U.S. Census, you know, and I can send some examples of that to you, Madam Clerk. And another thing, if you could form a complete count committee. Now that can be a committee of one. Indianapolis has one of like, I think 99. And again, that's just community cheerleaders, and all that is maybe you could meet once or twice leading up to the census and just say, hey, this is what we're going to commit to do. Madam Clerk's going to every month post something about the census. We're going to put a poster up, that counts. I know Lafayette, Patty Payne, I think every 10 days she's posting something on their Facebook and stuff like that. So it's just simple things. It's really just a big marketing campaign, and we just hope that you guys would help, you know, and commit to be a part of it. I think what's going to happen is, because I met with the county and I met with both cities, so I think what will happen is they're going to form a big complete count committee, and then what I would envision is maybe the smaller towns like Dayton, you guys would be a subcommittee of that. And again, I know, oh my God, another committee, another meeting, that's not what this is about. It's really kind of just a feel-good thing, see your name on a list, you know, and just to show that we're all involved in this and trying to get everybody counted. Do you have any questions? I'm available. She has my information. So what I would like, if you could, within the next, maybe your next meeting or a couple, if you would consider doing the proclamation, and Madam Clerk and the President of the Council, if you might write a letter just of support, and I can send you a sample of that and get it back to me. Would you be willing to do that? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Jamie,
Oh,
let's put it for somebody
yeah,
else.
there you go. There you go.
Thank you.
Might only get some more of these,
Okay.
just because.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, clerk treasurer report.
Okay. So, first thing, obviously the council is aware, but we are finally getting our State Board of Account audit. So they started July 17th. They're still here. They were supposed to be done August 5th, but they're still trucking along. News is, I think they might be done by the end of this week. Actually, read what will establish them, how long is that email that I forwarded you for those questions for insurance purposes.
Oh.
He was just wondering how soon you would get that back. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, if you can get that to me. So, once they are done, we will have an exit conference with just the board members. And that will be a closed meeting. It will not be open to the public. They will let us know what their findings are, and then once it's actually filed, which probably won't, they said until like September, then we can make it public, but we're not allowed to speak of their findings until they actually file it. So we'll know what they found, but we can't engage with anybody or tell them what happened until they file it. So that's that. So Financial Solutions Group, we had the work session with them last month, and you'll see that there is kind of like the engagement letter. I went ahead and had them draft one up, just in case, you know, we decided to move forward. I sent you guys out an email request for them that was separate from this to help me with budget for this year. So I did get 3 move forward votes from Ron, Tammy, and Tyrone. I didn't hear back from Ashley or Mike, but since I got the 3, we went ahead and moved forward. They were here today. And I'm going to pass these down. So we've got the whole budget estimate done. So what I did on the top, I put the 2020s, and there's a copy there for you, read too. And then on the bottoms is the 2019, so you can see the difference. So what we did is we went through the fund report, the appropriation report, and the revenue report. We saw what we had budgeted for this year and then what we've actually spent, and we kind of went off of that to make sure that we don't overspend, or like somewhere where we had a high budget but didn't use it, we lowered it. So this is kind of just the start of it. So this gives you guys a chance to kind of go over it and then let me know where you want to change, add, take down. We do need to have a work session regarding the budget before we have the public hearing. So we would like to schedule the actual work session before September 9th's monthly meeting. So have a work session with Financial Solutions at 6 p.m. before the monthly meeting, and then have the actual budget hearing October 1st, which I believe is Tuesday, because we need to, budget is due November 1st. So we have to do all of those
You're
steps.
gonna do it in August, you're gonna do it right after Labor Day, that's the weekend before.
Do what? So
Meeting.
the work session for the budget would be September 9th, which is our September monthly meeting, before the actual monthly meeting, so at 6. And then
Okay.
have the regular monthly meeting at 7. But then actually have the budget hearing, because we have to publish it in the paper about the hearing. Have the actual hearing October 1st here at Town Hall, at like 6. Yeah. But anyway, so they gave the estimate for the budget help for everything. I think that's including them coming to the meetings and the hearings and all of that, to not exceed the 2,500. So I have the email votes, but if you guys could go ahead and make an official vote for the record for that, and then the engagement letter to go forward with hiring them and their fees. And if you want to go ahead and do that 5-year plan or outlook that's on there too, that they had talked about, which would not exceed the 6,500 for that outlook, the revenue and spending plan. So to kind of see where we're kind of looking at for the next 5 years, that would help with Yost Road, to know where we need to go with that.
I think we want it for Yost Road.
Mhm,
You know
yeah.
where this money's coming.
Yeah, and they do not charge for every time that I call them. I mean, before the approval of the budget help, I emailed and talked with them numerous times. And obviously, we don't even have them officially hired, so they're really good about not charging for every single time I email or call or ask a question.
You get us some bigger font.
I'll get you a magnifying glass. So it would be two separate motions, one for the actual budget that they're helping me with, and then the engagement letter that you guys have a copy of to hire them to assist me.
Make a motion for the budget,
And that's not to exceed 2,500.
yeah, not to exceed 2,500.
Second.
And then the engagement letter to hire them to be my financial advisor. And if you want to go ahead and move forward with this sustainability and revenue and spending plan not to exceed 6,500, that's what this engagement letter is for.
That's a separate thing.
Yes, yep.
That 6,500, that takes in 1 year?
No, that's for that 5-year plan.
The whole 5 years?
That's like, it's not a budget, it's not a 5-year budget. It will help us moving along with the budget every year for the next 5 years. But it will then help us to figure if we need to buy new vehicles, if we, for Yost Road, our projects, if we want to say we want to do these roads these years, we want to buy this year, it will help us in it. They look, I think, it's kind of like what Retha did, but more in-depth and moving forward, not just looking at what the past couple
We
years have
vote
been.
on these separately though, right?
Yeah, so there's been a motion
Motion.
for the budget that you guys originally approved through email.
So we need to vote.
So if that takes in the 6,500, what's the additional rates for? What would we,
That would just be strictly me as them being my financial advisor, is the hourly rate stuff.
I don't think it's a flat fee. They have hourly rates that will not exceed 6,500.
No, the 6,500 is strictly for that 5-year plan.
so it's like a retainer?
It's, yeah, they have an estimate of 4,500 to 6,500, but they do not exceed of 6,500. But all of those are going to be hourly charges. That's my understanding.
No.
It's not-
So the 6,500 is strictly for them to do this 5-year plan. The hourly rates that are separate for me calling and saying, hey, I need help with investments, what do you suggest, what do we need to do? Like things like this. This is strictly the cost for them to go back a couple years and then look forward for a couple years. This would be like if I called you and asked you to look into something for me that's separate from this. So this 5-year project,
It's a range from
Is-
4,500 to 6,500.
So
just for that sustainability and revenue and spending plan, yes.
Right.
But the other rates are for
Hourly on
them
top of
to
that.
be my advisor. There's different levels of tiers. So like Greg was here today working with me for the budget, so obviously he's one of the top people. But if he has one, like how Reed's paralegal is at a lower rate, if I call and ask, like his son, I'm sure is at a lower level than him right now.
So do we need to okay 3 things? One's doing the budget, 2,500. One is doing the 5-year plan at 45
They'd
to
probably be smarter to do
65.
that.
Then the third thing would be give you the okay to call
Hire them as
up.
my financial advisor.
Yeah, there's been a motion made and secondly to approve the
Budget.
budget for 2,500, not to
Correct.
exceed 2,500.
Correct.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Uh,
Aye.
All right.
Motion carries.
So the second one will be for the
It's sub-sustainability, for the 5-year plan, not to exceed
sustainability
6,500.
for revenue and spending plan.
Yes.
So they're gonna bill us based on a flat fee, we just don't know what it is yet. It's gonna be between 4,500 and 6,500.
I think the way it reads, they're gonna get those fees from these
I think
numbers here.
That's the way I read it too, but I think that that's not, because it says billing for budget or other services will be calculated using hourly rates. I think that they're saying that billing for the sustainability revenue and spending plan is estimated to range between 4,500 to 6,500 depending on time and resources required.
Right.
I think those are separate. And
Yes.
we're gonna get like, either a $5,000 flat fee or 5,500, but they're not gonna be hourly
Right.
for that.
For that,
It's just
yes.
not determined yet. And then these hourly rates, I think, are.
Yeah, it says billing for budget and other
Yeah.
services, correct, yeah.
I read it the same way as you did the first time.
But it's still, we got okay the 4,500 to 6,500 and the separate rates for Michelle,
For just being my
for
financial
just being
advisor.
your financial.
Correct.
Not meaning we're going to get a monthly bill.
Do
You
we
know what I
need to
mean?
put a limit on that, or?
Well, like I said, I mean, we haven't even hired them, and they've been at my beck and call, and they've even said, as long as I'm the only one calling them or emailing them, they will not charge us for every single thing. If they have multiple board members and me calling, then that's when they will start billing.
But let's talk about the 5-year plan. Do we want to do that or not? I mean, we talked at the other meetings about having a 5-year plan, so can we afford Joe's, can we afford this,
Right.
that, whatever?
Correct.
Yes. I think it's a good idea. Keeps us in line.
So I make a motion to hire them to do this study for 5 years, for the 5-year fiscal plan for $4,500, not to exceed $6,500 that they outlined on August the 1st, 2019.
Motion made, anyone second?
Second?
It's been a motion made, properly seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And now you said there's one more piece to this, the hourly rate?
Correct.
So I would just go
So
ahead.
basically, we're just gonna accept their hourly rate. All right.
And allow them to be my financial advisor.
I think we can make a motion to accept their hourly rates as stated in the letter to Michelle August the 1st, and we should allow her to have the conversations with them
Financial advisor.
and be her financial advisory board's not taking.
Second.
Motion made, properly seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Right.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay. All right, so moving on, the next thing, you'll see a invoice from Ball Eggleston. If you notice, it's dated November and December and a January date, so of 18 and then January of 19. I just received this last month after our July meeting, and I called them and I asked them why we're getting billed so late. They informed me that apparently Jason left the firm like 3-4 months ago now, and all of his invoices were just sat on the corner of his desk. And now somebody is actually having time to go through them and sent them out. So we are not being penalized for not having this paid. And she informed me that everything was okay, it's just, they're just now getting to it. So I had informed her that I had to wait until this month's meeting, and she said it was fine. So I just need the approval to pay Ball Eggleston the invoice for $648 from work from November of 2018.
This is on Kiger's lawsuit against the town over the
Correct,
voting wards.
yes.
I make a motion that we pay the invoice of $648 to Ball Augustine.
Second.
It's been a motion made, properly seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Motion carries.
The next invoice is the Reach Alert renewal. I just got this. So last year, when it was the first year, we only got charged $1 per house. So it was only like $535 or maybe around up to $600. So this year, now they're charging $2 per house, which makes it $1,070. I've talked to a couple people about this. I can probably count on both hands how many times we've used this. We have 60 houses signed up. I just don't think it's worth $1,000. We have our website, we can put notices on our bills, we have our official Facebook page. I feel like people share the stuff that I post rather than they can't share a text with their neighbors. So I personally don't think we should renew it because we didn't use it enough or utilize it enough. I mean, you can't really get the word out.
Well, when we, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
I know you're fine.
When we initially signed up with Reach, we knew that there was that the cost would increase in the second year. We knew there was an introductory rate. We've used this for various things. One thing that we've used it for recently was during the wintertime plowing snow, to try to help get the streets cleared off and stuff. We've used it for street cleaning and some things like that also, I believe. I know Mulberry's had success with getting people to sign up for it, more success than what we've had. I use Mulberry for internet and cable TV, and I just got a letter from them that Mulberry Communications is also using the Reach system to notify their customers when they do utility work and stuff like that. I think we should continue on with it. I think it needs to be promoted more to our
We do,
residents.
we hand them to every single person. We have them on the table, we hand them to new customers, but still, we only have 60 houses out of 500. I mean, I can see on my Facebook page how many people my posts reach. I'm reaching 1,000 people in my post on the official Facebook page. Leaf removals, plowing, all of that can be done on our website, on our bills. I mean, you can't share a text message. We don't even have 50% of people signed up for this. Why would we pay $1,000?
It's also, email, however a person wants to receive
Right,
it.
but still only 60 houses are signed up for it out of 535 houses.
Currently.
We tried it
Right.
for a year, and if you had 400 houses, I'd
Right.
say it's a good thing. But if you only got
It's-
60 in a year, it's another $1,000, $1,100. I mean, maybe we ought to put it into other stuff.
I just don't think we're,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been promoting it, and I, like you said, promote it, push it. We've put it out, we're handing it to new customers, and we only use them for leaf removal, snow, if there's road construction. But I mean, I feel like the Dayton Police Department, they're sharing, us sharing the website. We have the calendar on our website now that is connected with my email calendar.
So it doesn't have any ability for emergency alerts?
No, it is.
Yeah, but I mean, you're only reaching 60 houses.
Yeah, it's kind of like when there's a power outage in
Right.
an area and
I mean,
do
you have to have,
say something.
Right,
Have the volume.
you have to have that to make it work.
yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah, I can send out,
If we had 400 people signed up, how much would that cost us?
we're already getting charged for every single house.
So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if you're signed up
So
or
if
not.
we're ba-
It's just
okay.
the number of household, period.
So it's $2 per house at 535 houses, which makes it $1,070.
And that's an annual cost.
But we've only had it going for a year.
Right, but I mean, we don't even have 100 houses signed up for it.
I think I have to agree with Michelle that it's, when you're signed up for so many of these things, to get these alerts, it's overkill. I think we have a couple that are good and solid, that maybe being the town hall's post, the police department's post. I think we're good.
I mean, we get people sharing, we have the other pages sharing our post, we have residents that share our post on their page, and then they're sharing. And like I said, I can see how we're reaching people. I don't even have 1,000 people following the new Facebook page, yet I'm still reaching over 1,000 people with our posts. So obviously,
Are you reaching people outside the town of Dayton?
it's all Dayton resident, not on ours. Ours is strictly Dayton residents. I'm not talking about the other.
People who view your posts are only in the town of Dayton?
Sharing and everything.
The only thing I'm worried about is
1,600 people.
if you have power outage, like say we have a bad tornado coming through, nobody's Facebook's working, everybody's phone would still work. I mean, I would like that for tornadoes.
You'll still
Or,
get
you
weather
know,
work.
But yeah, you get your weather, but you're still only
Yeah.
reaching 60 houses.
Tornado,
I mean, if a tornado
tornadoes,
comes.
we do have our sirens.
Yeah, we have
We-
these sirens, but
Yeah.
there's people in this town who complain that they can't hear those sirens when they're
But
in different
they're,
parts of the town,
they're
you know.
getting their weather alert from elsewhere, not from us. It comes from
Yeah.
the Weather Channel, it comes from TV 18.
My phone goes
It comes
off.
from Nixles, and people sign up for Nixles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there's-
because she signed up on one of those things, so she said she gets the phone.
I mean, if you have like the AccuWeather app, your phone, if there's a tornado, your phone, you're not signed up for anything, you just have the
TV
AccuWeather.
18's all over it.
'Cause I thought quite a few years ago, we added another horn up there.
Just the one that's at the fire station, but I've still had a few people saying they think south of town, or kind of out past Deerfield in that area. It's
Right.
pretty faint, I mean, I'm pretty close, and if I'm not outside, it's not, if I'm in my house, kids yelling, I don't even hear it. I'm like 2
Yeah,
blocks
it's
away.
working up there when it's gone off, and it's pretty loud. But, as you know.
Whatever y'all want to do.
When it goes off on my phone, I open the door to see when the sirens are going on Dayton, and look, see where it's at.
Well, and a lot of people are signed up via email, not even text. And when you have an emergency alert, it's a loud, obnoxious noise. This is strictly a ding, like somebody's texting you. And again, if a tornado's coming, you're only reaching 60 houses out of 5. I mean, are we only gonna save 60 of our houses from, you know what I mean? I don't, it would be different if it was maybe back down and strictly only the 500 a year.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when you're paying $2 per house and you're only having 60, that's my opinion.
Even Duke Electric, you can sign up for their text messages, and they tell you when you've got an outage and for how long.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me. Say, it's up to you guys, however you want to do it.
I'm leaving it in your hand. If you want me to pay it, I'll pay it. If you don't,
I make a motion that we discontinue the use of reach alert.
Second.
There's been a motion made, probably seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
No.
so the next invoice, I'm gonna let Ron have at it.
Okay.
Ron asked me to put it in there, so.
For repair, because he actually had a report done by some engineers on Shady Lane.
This board voted to have a report done, but go ahead.
Actually had a private meeting with the engineers, and he stood here and said that he told them what to put in the report.
That is not true.
Well, that's what he said at the podium, so.
Who said that?
The guy the engineer we had out here, that came out here with a private closed meeting, and I kept saying, who put this in here, who put it in? He said Ashley told me to.
I asked him to look at it, and they
Yeah.
gave
Okay,
three
on that
options.
side, let's just.
Anyway,
Go on with the bill.
One of them is widening between the curves on Shady Lane 4 foot, digging it down 18 inches, replacing with a bunch of tons of gravel. I went ahead and did that to appease everybody. We had some trees cut down, the town did, and then I put in the gravel, spent a few days. Tyrone came down there, Tammy came down there, everybody came down there. I did say at one of the meetings before that it wouldn't cost you guys anything or a lot. I meant my labor. I do all this labor out here for free, but I charge the cost of the material. And I was also, it needs to be done anyway for when we widen the street. That's on one of these grant things, chewing it all up and widening it so it's all widened to the right thing. It might not be exactly to the inch here and there, but I think under the supervision of Mark, I dug it down and took it even farther than what we need to do. But it's $800, $858 worth of gravel. That's for 2 triaxle loads. There's actually 4 more ton of the number 2 and 2 ton of the number 73s that I just donated on top of this. It took more than these 2 truckloads. Then I filled in the edges with dirt and I seeded everything, and I go back there and water it in this hot weather. Every 4 days I'm down there for a couple hours watering. And I would just like to get reimbursed for the gravel. You know, I felt everybody else in this town, we do these other streets, and like on Ohio and everything, we The town paid for the gravel for down there, doing sort of widening an area that, sort of the same thing, so. It's gotta be done, it should save us a little bit of, I think Mark said, it might save us a little bit of money on the bid for doing the streets.
What is the bill for 1265, but you only want 858? Was that, the number 73 at the very top, is that what you said you donated, or is that for something?
Well, that I just had filled.
Okay.
They put your bill, the town's bills on the little slips for town of Dayton, but then they billed me the whole thing.
Okay.
We sell a lot of number 73s.
Okay. I was just wondering, because it was on there, I didn't know if it was all the same thing.
I have a problem paying the bill for several different reasons. You know, when this was discussed at a board meeting, Mr. Culler evidently mistakenly misunderstood the motion that was made.
You can say it wrong.
And went ahead and dug out the areas and put the stone in there. You know, that was not what was said in the motion. That should have never been done.
It was set in a motion. Tyrone came down there, Tammy called me up, Mark came over there. Everybody except you and Mike knew what was going on and said it was okay.
It was not said in,
You know, so.
it was not said in the motion. During the conversation that we were having about doing this, on several occasions, you said that you would take care of all the costs of doing it. And, you know, I assume that this is part of that cost of doing it. You said you take care of it. You know, I suspect when we get ready to asphalt this area, that there will need to be additional work done, and you know, it'll have to be compacted and some other things, and, you know, might even have to be, I don't know, dug out and made deeper or something, or wider or something like that, so.
Well, I'm doing it because these engineers came along and said it's so dangerous and everything that we need this work done. We didn't know at that time when I suggested this, we were even going to apply for grant money for it. So I was trying to solve a solution. Excuse me a minute, let me finish talking. Actually, let me talk. I was trying to solve a solution, Ashley, that you came along, that road hasn't been changed in 45 years. You moved back there, and to get something at us, you come along and change that road. So I complied and broke my back to go ahead and make it at least halfway legal, according to your engineers, until we got the grant money.
We discussed many times that this could all be done with CCG.
Well, we discussed with Umball Associates, 15,000 for up there, and then it's another 15 or 30, isn't it?
So you're
We're talking about $800 stinking dollars here.
widening this could all be done with CCG money. You know, you're the one that had to have it done immediately.
Down on Ohio, you and Mike had to have that gravel for a private person down there on the curb, and you spent all that money at full cost. Mine is at wholesale.
No.
You spent the dirt, the topsoil, and the seed and straw at full price, and you had it done, and I don't know why we even did that down there. That's something you guys wanted. I'm doing this only because you were going to ruin our road, and you wanted it done, and your engineers wanted it done.
No, you're the one that wanted this done immediately, rather than waiting till Mark submitted the CCG.
You weren't even advocating having the CCG money. I had to push you to do that, Ashley. It wasn't on your thing last year. It wasn't on this year. You only put that on because I pushed and said that needs to be done. Because if your engineers are saying it's the number 3 rating, the worst rating in Dayton, it needs to be done. You weren't even going to put it on to the grant money.
Yes, we were.
No, you weren't, because you never mentioned it till I brought it up. Well, actually, you're not doing all number 3s now. You're doing some number 5s and 6s and whatever. You're not going down the list of the most important ones. You're skipping and choosing is what you're
A
doing.
number 3 with 20-some-odd households, yes, that would be done. A number 3 with 1 house.
That was a...
drive. No, you're not going to do
Was that, everybody back there, every resident signed a thing that you guys don't butcher up that road and take those trees and everything, but you had to do it, Ashley, to have something to hang over our heads, is what it was.
Yes.
Don't please me
Yes.
anything. It's exactly what he was doing.
Well, and then it seems to me that you went and butchered it up and want the town to pay for it.
I didn't butcher it up. What do you mean I butchered it up?
It looks worse
Mike?
now than it did before.
Mike, it was, no, Mike, your engineer said it was dirt there, you couldn't even pull off the side. What do you mean? It was crummy dirt with trees, and you guys had to have that removed.
We don't do it now, we wait and do it
With the
right,
CCG.
because by the time we get asphalt on there, that's all gonna be a mess, and it's all gonna have to be redone, so.
Sure. And I bet it saves,
I'm not in favor of.
Mark, did you say it might save some of the money? He told me it might save it. He came, okay, guys, it might. I went out here and did all that work trying to correct something that you guys wanted done.
You were impatient and wouldn't wait.
I wasn't impatient. You guys were threatening to put a road through our goddamn field, Ashley.
No. That's
And I took a lie detector test that said you propositioned me, and you held it over my head and told me I had to go to Lacus and give him the water rights. That's in a signed confession.
Let's just get back on track.
You son of a bitch.
So we're looking at this bill.
I second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion
Donate it.
carries.
Just donate it.
What was the
What
motion?
happened?
That we not pay it.
Oh, yeah, thanks, guys.
Already three.
I'll do it.
Oh, my God.
You won't remember that
We
election.
don't talk about politics out here. It's everything they do is a dangle of that over your head.
Yeah, right.
Yes, it is. And you propositioned me that told me I had to go give them those water rights.
Oh, my
Oh,
gosh.
give me a break.
Moving on to
did, Ashley. You
Nate's
absolutely
handyman
did.
invoice.
So this invoice, I guess the condensation pump went out in the basement. We kept smelling something really bad in the office. Mark went downstairs, there was sitting water and everything, so Ron called Nate out. He had to replace the pump, install a trap, rerun the condensation drains, excuse me. And I guess he repaired the gutter at the police department, so I just need approval to pay the invoice of $515 for materials and labor for the pump and the drain and the gutters at the police department.
Make a motion, we pay Nate's handyman invoice of $515.
Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then the last thing is we have the next movie night set for September 7th. This movie night, we're going to try something different. We're going to try and get food trucks to come and hopefully park back in the church's parking lot. And I think we'll see about doing like some popcorn and drinks, but offer that. Try something different.
Should be able to start it earlier too, like 8:30, because it's getting like 8:45 now, so a month, it should be 8:30.
And I think that's all I got. Wonder Park. It's like an animated, it's about like an abandoned amusement park.
When is it, Michelle?
September 7th,
That's a town Saturday.
Saturday.
I think that's.
The SI Appreciation Day will be going on at the same time.
The what?
SI Appreciation Day will be going on at that same time.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
So do we need to change that then?
maybe let's look into that, yeah.
Do you want to do what's the following Saturday?
That right at dark, there'll be fireworks going on.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
I'll be at a wedding the following Saturday.
Do you want to do you think we can put it to, no, because that's the holiday weekend.
28 days.
No, I was thinking like the 31st of August. The 21st of September? That's the third week of September.
That's our market fair.
Oh, well, in the evening though, right? How about we recontemplate this and then we'll, yeah. Apparently there's a lot of it. Okay, scratch that. Rethink. Okay, that's it.
Okay, at the last meeting, Ron had asked me to look into the development guide and town ordinances regarding reimbursement for legal or engineering fees. So the development guide says the town of Dayton requires the following fees paid by the owner or developer. And so there are three fees there listed that are kind of set in stone that the developer or the owner pays. Everything else regarding my fees for development or any engineering fees for the town's engineer would be paid by the town unless that would be addressed in the utility service agreement. I talked to Michelle Watson, typically the utility service agreement is done pretty early on in the process. So a lot of times there's not an ability to customize or kind of have any of these fees diverted to the owner or the developer. But the Baker Farms project is much different. We haven't executed the utility service agreement yet, and we have this extra element to the project that involves land that's not on the developer's property. So, I just need any input. I think that the best way to move forward is to have a meeting with everyone in the same room. But regarding the amount of money that the town's going to pay for the right-of-way services for that contract, and then if there's anything paid for the acquisition of the easements, that's just one item that could be put into the utility service agreement regarding possibly a split of those fees. So I just need to know, if that's anything that you want me to do. I have not had that conversation with Baker Farms attorney at this point. But outside of that, I think that everything is set up to leave that question open because you don't know what's going to be involved in a particular development. Next item I had is, I did talk with Marshall Taylor regarding the public complaint and policy, and he's going to talk more about that. But one thing that come out of that, talking to him and also talking to Michelle, is I did draft a public comment policy for the town council early on in this year, and one thing that we could address in a public comment policy that came up with that is any complaints regarding any employees of the town, how that would be handled, mostly, just in response. Certainly there's some restrictions that we have with personnel regarding the Open Door Act as far as, what the town council can and can't do. It's different than what people kind of get up and make a comment about. But that's another item. Again, if we want to do that, that could, need to be posted at every meeting, but those could put into place guidelines for everyone at our public meetings. So that would be public comments, but it would also apply to town council. So that's just another thing that I can need to know from you if there's any interest in readdressing that policy, or if we want to leave that be.
I think just like they do at every plan, it should be read before every meeting on the rules. And the one they have is fine. The one they read that you have so much time, do not repeat, and you come to the podium if you want to speak. And that's pretty cut and dry. So I think if we could get something like that.
Yeah, I have a draft. I just haven't received any feedback. So it was right after we met with the public access counselor, and so it's just something that it could be really close to what you guys want. Could need to make some changes, but it's that's like a one-page document. I do think it's similar to what Area Plan has.
Yeah.
Do you resend it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to see that again.
Next item is for the redevelopment commission. Heather James Eismiller has prepared all the documents, and we are ready today to adopt the ordinance, as long as town council is willing to suspend the rules so that we can do this on first reading. So what we would need to do is just decide who the two people will be selected. And as soon as we do that, then we can go ahead and adopt the ordinance. And then the next step would be for Heather to prepare the declaratory resolution. And we would have to schedule a meeting for the commission.
So this commission's for the whole town, right? I thought when we first set this up, it was just for that tipped area up there. We're doing it for that. Now, how did it get to the whole town? Because this redevelopment commission has a capacity to raise our taxes and stuff like that, don't they? So,
And the redevelopment commission has to be just in the new development. It has to be on
it reads that it's for the whole town.
with the representatives of the town.
Yeah,
No.
the people appointed can be anyone in the town. The legal authority of the commission is limited to what's in the statute, and the funds that are available are only set forth regarding.
So this has got to do with just the tip area?
It's just a tip.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
And you said 2, is it not 5?
The town council needs to appoint 2,
Correct.
and then Ty
And the-
does 3.
3.
Ty does 3, so it's a total of 5. So how we have the ordinance drafted, we just have the names that we would insert for the 2 people that you would select, so those are blanks. So then the other 3, it just says that the town council president will appoint 3 people. So I think the next step, like, before we do the ordinance, would be for you guys to go through your process, so.
Okay, so should I appoint people first or let them?
So we're gonna write names on it?
Yeah, so, you can go ahead and do your people, so outside of the ordinance, we have an oath of office, for everyone, so, we just need you to, provide those names, and then we'll have them sign the oath of office.
Okay.
For the 2 that we want to be on the board, did we just put their name on a piece of paper and pass it
That's what
down?
these are for. And then I'll just read whoever gets the most.
Have these people been notified they might be picked, or?
This is kind of an extra step every once in a while, like an appointment could be completely outside of a public meeting.
You can pick 2 out of this. I think only 3. You just pick
You
one.
have 3, you have 3.
No?
All we need for these 2 is after they're presented, we need a vote from the town council to approve.
So I should go ahead and do mine. So the people that I'm gonna appoint will be utility board president Mike Harris, because utilities are gonna be the biggest part of that. And streets, Ashley, because the 2 main things that people out there are gonna be talking about is streets and utilities for the first couple of years. I suggest each year that the utility board president and streets be the person, like if there's a new board coming in, just because in the first couple of years of that development, that's gonna be, most of the questions are gonna be with utilities and streets. And my 3rd person will be Joe Adario.
You're right, it's all political.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
told you
You
exactly.
guys, we all knew it, we picked them ahead of
Yeah,
time.
I knew it.
Exactly, they're just packing everything. That way they can do whatever the hell they want.
Do you understand what redevelopment committee does, Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah, we understand, Tyrone,
Okay.
you know? You understand where the boundaries of this town are, Tyrone? Yes, we got that the other day.
Read them out, all the rest.
Ron, do you have yours?
Let me have another piece of paper, please.
It's already decided, you might
Yeah,
not make
why
the
you can
effort.
vote, it's already decided.
So the two with the most votes are Kimberly Wright and Larry Hauser.
5 for 5.
5 for 5.
I called it.
Nancy, were you notified about this?
About what?
You're supposed to talk to the people you notified, Ron.
I asked you if you notified him, Tyrone, you said yes.
Everybody was supposed to notify who they sent me. You were signed up for something from him.
Oh, okay.
Everybody's supposed to talk to who.
You'd think if you're gonna be signed up for something, somebody would talk to you about it, but evidently not.
Not surprising.
Wait, Kelly Berger.
Or at least,
Is that it, Reed, for this? Can we move on to the next?
So Michelle's gonna go prepare the ordinance, so you guys can sign it tonight.
So if we move on to the police then.
Yeah.
Town police report, Marchdale.
Any questions on the activity reports for June? No? Okay. Item 2, Lois Jones, our full-time crossing guard, wants to cut back to part-time. In her place, I would like to present to the board for approval Karen Hall. I think all of you know her. She's sitting back here in the third row. She has put forth an application, which I've done a background check, and she passes all that. So with your approval, I'd like to hire her, put her on our staff. Lois is going to remain as a part-time status, so we'll have a pool of 3 or 4 in our part-time status. Give her some breaks when she needs it.
I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and hire Karen Howe for the crossing guard.
Second.
Been a motion made, probably seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Welcome.
Third topic I have is on semis on town streets. Something I've noticed for quite some time, it's not really a drastic issue that has to be addressed today, but I want to bring these to your attention. We have some semi-conflicting ordinances with regards to semis on town streets. In our traffic regulations, ordinance 71.01 states that basically no semis, commercial vehicles are allowed on certain streets that are posted. So one would think that no semis could be on any side streets. I think it's worth discussion, deciding what we consider side streets or local streets. Currently, the only street that we have posted is Dayton Road to the south. Nothing else is posted, and it probably should be in some form or manner. Also, later in that traffic code, it talks about parking of commercial vehicles. So if we have areas posted, it's kind of conflicting because it says no commercial vehicle, unless it's making a local delivery, shall be parked for more than 4 hours. So you can see the conflict. You can't be on the street because you're a commercial vehicle or a truck. Then we say you can't be there for more than 4 hours. So that would kind of open the door for someone to run home with their 18-wheeler to park in front of the house and go in, do whatever. To me, it makes logical sense that we would prohibit semis and commercial vehicles on any local street unless they're making a local delivery to the residents or a business. I think that would be a lot easier to post than if you were going to go every street through town. I think it's more logical to post at each end of town, the 4 access points, and say, local streets or non-commercial or semi-vehicles. A lot of jurisdictions put a weight limit on it, and we don't have any reference to any of the specific weight. We just say commercial vehicles, semis, including
large buses, Greyhounds, things of that nature. So that's kind of the points that I wanted to bring up to you. I think we ought to clarify them somehow, maybe combine them, decide what we want to do and what we want to prohibit. I think we would probably all agree that aside from Dayton Road, there's no reason for semis to be on any of the side streets. It's just not, they're not designed for it. The width, the curving, the intersections are too narrow. I've been through a bunch. Every time they go through town, they tear down limbs and cut corners and go through yards and almost take out signs. So that, I think, is a no-brainer. But my question is, do we want to put something on Dayton Road? That's where we see frequently more semis than any other. A lot of times when there was construction up on Haggerty or out east of town, they would use that road as a bypass and cut through, given that, you know, we have to maintain those roads because we want semi-traffic on them. Food for thought.
I think we ought to put one up at Haggerty because that, with that new truck entrance in the back there, they're gonna keep coming down through there, so it needs to be at Haggerty before they ever turn.
And I would agree, and it's like the one we have posted right out here on Dayton Road. What good is it? Because the semi is already gonna be turned by the time they see it, so how could that? So you would really need it before that point. But, you know, there's a lot of trucking businesses out that way over towards 52 that if I see a lot of them cut through going over that way. You know, obviously farm traffic would be considered local traffic, we wouldn't want to regulate that, but it's something you guys want to think about and just kind of think of this next month and put it table it for discussion for next month. Kind of look around and see what you think would be logical on that.
Sounds good.
When are they closing 38?
So they go down by Adams Road, closing 38.
Well, for that project?
21, 22, something.
Yeah. Summer 21.
Just contemplate it and we'll bring it up next week. If we want to post something, where we post them, how we want to word it, where we would do that. Next item I had, our attorney kind of brought up was a form or a reference. Basically, it was a reference material for all of us to use, the clerk and the council, just as something as a reference to, we could go back to when somebody has a complaint or the collections procedure or fines, and we had our attorney go through that or go through and look over what I had created to make sure that I was referencing the proper laws and we were in compliance with our town ordinances. And we think we've come up with something that is a good guide and reference material. It's nothing you have to vote on or anything. It's just something we want to post on our website, put out here on the table, have available for the clerk and for you to reference to. Because a lot of times, you know, it's not like we get complaints on our employees every day, but when we do, sometimes we don't realize what's the procedure, how should we handle this, and people don't all know. The public don't always know. You know, who would I contact if I want to make a complaint about the marshal or one of his deputies? And this is kind of a good reference for people to do that. So if they call the clerk, she can point them in the right direction, and call me, or I can point them to one of you guys to follow up on that. So that's what that was in reference to. The last thing I had on my, any questions on that? The last thing, at the last meeting, the council asked me to look into allowing golf carts, the possibility of having golf carts access the west end of Dayton. I believe there's been a few people who expressed an interest in that.
The access is currently denied due to state laws prohibiting golf carts to be driven on state roads and due to our local ordinance prohibiting their use on sidewalks. One solution would seem to be to amend our town ordinance to allow golf carts to drive on one or both sides of State Road 38. Some considerations for this is that the current sidewalk may be too narrow for golf carts to use safely. If a wheel were to drop off one side of the sidewalk or another, there's potential for an accident. We would need possibly some right-of-way rules to regulate what happens when two carts would meet on a sidewalk or meet a pedestrian. And we might also need to consider what property owners would say when golf carts or pedestrians are forced to use their yards if two golf carts meet. It's very likely that if we were to allow that, there were to be traffic meet on a sidewalk, it's highly likely they're just going to get on the highway and continue on their merry way, which would promote a violation. If we had to widen sidewalks, obviously there would be added cost for that and potentially the need for easements or right-of-ways. Another consideration for allowing use on sidewalk would be access points. Do we allow access to the entire length of sidewalk through town on State Road 38 or just begin at Harrison Street? If the entire length is used, do we erect stop signs at each cross street? If we only allow access to Harrison Street, how do we keep them from venturing back east? Just all things to consider. Another good solution would be to create a golf cart path either along the railroad or in the north end of town to go around McAllister. Obviously, if it went down next to the railroad, we'd have to secure permission and or easements from all those property owners. And some things that they would have to consider is, would there be liability factors for them if they allowed access to off-road vehicles behind their property? Or would they want to or be encouraged to donate or allow public access easements? I don't know. Obviously, if we made some kind of path, it would make more sense for it to be improved or paved, and there would be a lot of costs involved in that. If we went on the north side, this might seem a little more logical because the town owns a lot of property going around McAllister, and we have right-of-ways along the berm and things like that. But if council remembers a couple of years ago, a lot of the residents along the berm expressed their displeasure for the likelihood or potential for a street behind their houses. So that's another factor. They might not be all too encouraged by that. Some safety concerns that I'd like to bring to your attention. I'd urge you to be very cautious about allowing golf carts to have access to the west end of town. This area is a major interstate interchange. The volume of traffic is high in this area. According to NDOT, stats say as many as 18,000 vehicles a day travel through this area. This is a major traffic area for large equipment and semi-tractors. This traffic is only going to increase with our new annexation and commercial businesses building in that area. The majority of traffic accidents we investigate in that area are in that area. We typically don't see a lot of severe injuries due to the safety features built into cars. Golf carts, however, typically don't have seat belts in use, airbags, or crumple zones. If an accident were to occur between a vehicle and a golf cart in this area, it's going to be severe. This location, vehicles are slowing to 45 from the 55-mile-per-hour zone. We routinely clock drivers at 60 miles per hour in that area. Also, state law would permit golf carts to cross this road. So that's going to be 5 lanes of traffic that they would be allowed to cross if we got them down to this area. This is only going to add to the danger. We have not had any accidents with golf carts up to this point. I would urge the council to keep golf carts confined to the residential side of town. Keep in mind that if the town takes steps to allow access to this area, it could be sued and held liable for permitting such a dangerous situation.
Simply posting that operators of carts do so at their own risk may not hold up in court. Government entities routinely get sued for traffic pattern-related accidents. Now, some will argue that these points are exaggerated, or that there are so few carts being used that it won't make a difference. Some will point out that cart operators will use common sense and travel when traffic is slow. Thus, regulations are not needed. Some will believe that we are overregulated as it is and that we're overthinking everything. Just open up the sidewalk. However, the council must consider the fact that, unfortunately, people do have lapses in judgment and take risks that put themselves and others in danger. We must consider that in the future as more golf carts may be in use. Our current ordinance was planned by a committee and council over many, many months, several years ago. And in the council meetings, we addressed those issues about allowing access to the west end of town. And it was decided at that point to keep the access limited just for the reasons that I mentioned. That's my speech. Now, I believe that law would allow you to let there be access along State Road 38. Because the state law says that off-road vehicles can use the right-of-way, at least in rural areas, that's the case. I don't know of any instances that have a situation similar to ours. I mean, Rossville allows golf carts, and they're on State Road 26, but they're not at an interstate, so I just think it's a different situation. But if the council wants me to continue to look into this further, I would find some jurisdictions and poll them to see who allows golf carts to use sidewalks, if any. But I'll await your direction on that.
I'm good with it staying the way it is.
I'm not asking for a decision, it's just points of contact for you guys.
I think you pretty much said it all. I'll make a motion, we don't allow access to the west side of town. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there a second?
She agreed, but did she second?
I'll second it.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded to,
Thought we weren't voting on it, but it didn't go.
oh, I don't think we are, but
But we did.
We did.
Now we are.
to not allow golf carts on the west side of town.
Not to.
Just
I
not
think
to.
you'd need a ordinance to actually, change the town code if you want to enforce it.
Really, there is no access now because you can't legally get down there.
Right.
So it really
There's
doesn't
nothing.
require you to do anything.
All right.
So we can't look, because the current ordinance says you can't use sidewalks, the state law says you can't travel on the state road. So. Now,
Good.
I'll give you an example. McAllister, they can take their golf cart and their little utility vehicles and go over and visit the gas stations, and I've seen them do that occasionally. If we have, maybe in the future, we may need to address that situation. If we get housing in that area that can access it through streets, Yost Road, Pine Drive. But as it sits right now, those businesses that are down there could potentially do that because they're already there. But I don't think we need to pass an ordinance just to.
Okay, Tammy's revoked her second.
All right.
I think
No, that's right, I just agreed, I didn't have to.
Oh,
Is there anything?
Anything else? I don't have any.
So Scott, the only one option would be that if it's ever gonna happen, you'd go behind if you got permission from all the homeowners along here with their big backyards, and you went north of the tracks, back here, went from Dayton Road all the way down.
That's an option.
Does the railroad company own easements next to it? That's.
It's just their property, I don't know if it's an easement or not.
They do.
Because if they have to fix it, I wonder if the railroad company would just say, yeah, you can use our
I
easement.
doubt it, they do not like anybody.
They don't like
on their property.
anybody. Just-
Isn't there a road down there they didn't even want us to come across?
Well, they didn't wanna
Yeah.
put a thing over the.
They don't want us to come across it.
Yeah, no crosswalks.
If you remember correctly, I think they weren't gonna allow us to have access to our
Water.
Yeah.
water sewer station down there because they didn't have the proper.
All right. So ordinance 2019-8, an ordinance to establish a Department of Redevelopment pursuant to Indiana Code 36-714 and repealing all ordinances inconsistent therewith. We're going to need a motion to suspend the rules, to allow passing on first reading, to suspend the rules to waive formal reading, and then we'll need a roll call vote.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on the first reading of ordinance 2019-8.
Second.
Been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then what was the second part?
Just a motion to suspend the rules to waive formal reading of the ordinance.
Make a motion to waive formal reading of the ordinance 2019-8.
Second.
Been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Roll call
Aye.
vote.
Oh, roll call vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, you want me to say the names?
Yeah.
Tammy?
Need
Yes.
name and vote on the record, please.
Okay. Tammy?
Yes.
Yes. Mike?
Say
Tyrone? Yes.
your name. Mike?
Yeah.
Ashley, yes.
Ron, yes.
Okay, motion is granted.
So you sign?
I can just sign it?
Yeah, you want to sign?
Okay. So everybody's signing. Is that it for that section?
Yeah, so the other thing that we'll need for anyone who's been appointed is to sign the oath. We have those, certificate of appointment and oath. So we have all those ready, and then, this first, or do you want this one? I just- Yeah.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
Should we do all five together? Get them to come in and do the oath together?
Yeah, they don't need to be done in a public meeting.
Okay.
We'll just get that taken care of.
Seven, grab by your office.
Their first meeting, they have to establish their president and all of that too. It's one of the things that Vice Miller said. So whenever you guys have your first meeting with all the board members, you have to go through and you have to have a president and then I think a treasurer. It has to be appointed. And then you have to have at least 3 meetings a year. You need to have one at the beginning of the year to establish who's who, and then you need to have one at least the middle of the year and the closing. So you can do more than that, but the minimum that they allow is 2 meetings a year, but you can do, monthly or like a quarterly, whatever.
And Heather asked for some information that Ty's been working on, so that's the next step for her. After she gets all of those responses regarding our specific tip area, she'll do a table of all the documents and items that we need to do. So for formation, there's more requirements. We're gonna have to get approval from the town council. There's other public meetings after this gets put in place, but the next step is gonna be the declaratory resolution, and then they've already drafted the bylaws of the redevelopment commission, which addresses what Ty was talking about regarding president and vice president of the commission, things like that. And then we'll have to decide when the regular meetings will be held.
So the swearing in can be at the first meeting.
The swearing in is really gonna be addressed through the document. So like in my packet, I already have an oath of office and a certificate of appointment. We just need to get those out to everyone and get them signed.
Okay.
I don't have anything else.
Good.
New and old business. The next thing would be the leaf bids.
I don't know why leaf bids are on the agenda.
Ron just asked, and I know I talked to Tyrone about it, that if you guys were gonna put them out for bid this year, or how you guys were handling that.
So when we bid for leaves, the leaf collection last year, much like our trash bid, we had a bid period with option to renew. Okay, so the bid period for the leaves were a 1-year period, and then we could go on for another year after that if the price didn't change and the terms didn't change and all that. So I talked with Kelly Little, back in May or so, I think it was, and he's good with doing the leaves again for the town of Dayton at the same price, and same format, same pickup schedule and all that stuff. So Kelly will be doing it again for the town of Dayton, starting here in another month or two.
So when you guys all decide that? Who decided that, actually?
What's in our contract here?
It's in the contract that if the town board renews it, then you just made a decision, did you? Did you ask the board, or did we vote on it?
I don't think we voted on it, no.
Well, no, it sounded like you just made a decision. I mean, there's 2 other people that bid last year, and they would like to bid again, because, one of them did it the first year and helped draw up all the bylaws and everything. I would think you would open it up and then say, okay, guys, this is it, it's for 2 years or 3 years or whatever. I think they thought last year that it's gonna probably go year by year.
Well, Ron, they received this same bid sheet, all the bidders received the bid sheet. In item 6, it clearly states that's a minimum of 1-year period with the option to renew at the end of the term. The renew can be awarded from year to year, mutually agreed upon, and terms do not change. So I think that's pretty clear. I mean, this could turn out to be a 10-year contract, if they hold the price for 10 years and the terms don't change.
There's also, the town wants to keep spending money. The one person I understand is definitely want to beat last year's price and save the town some money. So I would think you'd want to look at it, since we've had a 2 years sort of experimental time. The one guy did it first year and wrote up all your things for you, did a lot of extra work and everything, and then, yes, Kelly came along and beat the other guys by a little bit, but it'd be nice to open it up for everybody.
He beat the guy that bid it the first year by $1,000, so it wasn't just a little bit, it was nearly 20% lower than the first guy.
You do what you want to, Ashley. Okay, since you made the decision, go ahead.
Well, I appreciate that, Ron, thank you.
Like he does everything. He and the sheep.
Okay, and comments from residents?
I went,
Gordon Hardybeck, 7701 Adams Road. Couple things. We were contacted by Vester and Associates on the downstream people about a meeting they wanted to have, which they had it down at the Sergeant Preston's August the 1st, and they laid out what they wanted to do, or what they were going to do, which basically, to make a long story short, they're going to put a pond on the north end
they're gonna put a pond on the southeast end, and then they're gonna put a pond out by Dayton Road, kind of on the west, and then there is gonna be a pond right in the middle. The pond in the middle is gonna be what they considered a wet pond. The other three supposedly are gonna have grass growing in them. And they're going to put all the stormwater that goes on the streets and whatever to them three ponds. They had the subdivision divided up into, I think it was 4 categories: the north side, the east, south side, this side, which way the water ran. Well, they're going to run this, you know, you get to thinking about what they told you. They're going to run water to these ponds, and then supposedly they're going to put a, what they call a level spreader, which is a 100-foot pipe with a hole in the top of it, out 100 feet, and that's going to drain that pond. That pond has to be empty in 48 hours. That's what they told us, okay? One person asked, well, what's that going to do? Because his house is right next to it. Well, you know, when you put a fire hose and have water running down it and you're going to this pond, then all of a sudden it's coming out in just a 100-foot long pipe to go into the ground, to saturate into the ground and go. To me, that's like running, they're going to run the north end all the way into that pond, and it's going to come out, and it's only going to come out 100 feet. Well, what they don't, they think you don't think about what the ground's going to do. Like now when it rains, the ground soaks up water. When it gets saturated, then it hits the gravel, and then it comes down and goes over the hill. You know, and that's what happens. Well, now they're going to pipe it straight to them ponds and run it in a 100-foot pipe, basically with holes or slits or whatever you want to call it, and the water's going to come out. Now, they said that their numbers were, like right now, I can be off 1 or 2, but it was like 24 cubic feet per minute is what it is now. And they're going to cut that down to 0.36. Well, that's almost 100-fold. They said that's what it's going to do. Well, then at the end of the meeting, I asked Pat, I said, I got up and I asked him, I said, well, you know, that's all fine and dandy, but what you're telling me means nothing to me because I don't understand all these numbers and all that. I said, what's the chances of me getting a report because of all your documentation, all your research on how this is going to work? Is there a chance of me getting that for I can show it to my engineer to make sure it's going to work, that it don't affect us? He basically told me no. He says it's up to town board, and I doubt if they're going to do that. And so that's why I'm here asking. When they give you the final plan for this drainage, what's the chances of us getting a copy of that for we can have our own engineer check it to see? Now, I have called IDEM, the man down in Indianapolis, told him what was going on. I talked to the engineer here in the county, and basically he told me, he says, well, if they follow everything, he says, Lord, there ain't much I can do if they follow everything, but he says, I don't know if they will. So, you know, I don't know what they're going to do. I'm just asking if I can get a copy of that before you guys approve it. Because Michelle Watts told me 2 meetings ago, I said, well, what happens when it runs over? What do we do? Who we go after? The town. She told me, well, you go after the homeowners association. Homeowners association? They tell you you can't park an old car out there. Or they tell you you can't build a shed. They ain't gonna do anything about running water over the hill. So that's what I'm asking for. Will the town council, can I get a copy of that?
Gordon, I believe, and I was at this same meeting.
Yeah, but you were also drinking, I don't know whether you heard everything.
Sir, I was drinking a Diet Coke.
I was drinking.
I was
Oh, well,
drinking.
somebody was drinking a beer over there where you was sitting.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
I
was.
know you probably never drank anything in your life.
I don't
was
drink no
drinking-
more.
Yeah, I was drinking a Diet Coke, thank you.
Yeah.
So at this meeting, you know, I.
Yeah, I know you was there.
Yes, and it was my understanding that after the board approved the drainage plan, then you could have access.
But I don't
to
agree with that. It wasn't
I'm
that,
not,
yeah, I know.
that's
I know.
what was
You know,
said.
we're on different things, because you have nothing to lose but a pole barn.
If you had a copy of that drainage plan right now today.
What would I do with
And
it?
there's 5 more changes made in it. You
No,
know,
I told them when it was done before, it went to the town board to get approved, if I could have it, just give it to my engineer, because I've already got an engineer, and he said he will get, and I have retained an engineer to look at it. He said, I can just tell you whether it's gonna work or it's not gonna work. And that's what I want. I wanna know if I get a copy of it. Not after you guys approve it. Because after you guys approve it, if we find out it's wrong, then where are we? We're nowhere.
Well, you'll obviously
That's what I'm
you'll
asking.
obviously bring it to our attention, so.
But that don't mean nothing, it was already done. We gotta stop the horse before it breaks out of the barn. Mike can understand that. And that's what we gotta do.
Gordon, I would think the board would have no reason not to let you see the plan once all the things are changed on it.
Once it's completed.
Before we okay it, let them, why not, let them have their engineer look at it. What
Because
wrong
it's,
with that be?
because actually your neighbor's the one that is concerned about that saturating his ground. But see, between your neighbor and you, there's a hump. Well, you know, water, once it gets down there, it's gonna go down to the bottom. He's the one that's concerned. And think about that, he's gonna put all that water out in 100 feet.
Gordon, we're all concerned. Yes.
You didn't ask a whole lot of questions.
I thought you did a pretty darn good job explaining everything.
Well, if you're all, everybody's concerned.
But do you know if that's true? I mean, I don't know. Do you understand that
I
stuff?
think Vester Associates is a reputable organization. I know that they're doing things to county standards. BF&S is a reputable organization. They're going to review it for the town of Dayton. So, you know, if it meets county standards, in those two, you know.
This is a different situation than 99% of what's going on in the county.
Hey, Gordon, what engineer are you gonna take this to?
Who am I taking it to?
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you who I'm going to take.
Well, I mean, I'm just wondering because you
Who
know,
am I-
it could take a long time for somebody to get
I
back.
sat there and talked to him for a half hour. He says, you know, that's not what I studied, but he says, I understand all that. And he was a engineer for about 6 months, and he flat told me, he says, I got tired of the rubber stamping. When somebody comes, said, do this, you stamp it, approved, and
I was
on.
just
He says,
wondering, time restraint wise, like if you know, because like, if you try to hire BF&S, they might be booked out for weeks, months, but if you have somebody who
He
just
told me if
was
I got
engineer
it
for a couple
tonight,
days.
I could give it to him and he'd look at it, and he said, in 2 or 3 days, I can let you know.
Okay, all right.
Well, and that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
And then my second thing I asked, when you appointed the people for this, what you just appointed for? You appointed Mike and him because Mike's,
Utilities.
and he's streets.
Yeah, and that's gonna
And
be
that's
90%
that's
of the.
now, when and if they're still in the next year. So does that mean if they was to lose one or both of them, do they get,
There'd be new people.
there'll be new people?
No, not for the, it goes by year. They
So
get
they'll be on for a year?
reappointed, so I'd say next June, whoever the board is in reappoints who they want.
So that, in other words, what you appointed or whatever
Yeah,
was
it's
voted on
only
is for
things
1 year?
1 year.
And then, so it has to be reappointed again? I mean, I know I'm not in town, but I got thinking about that. You know, we're 3 months from election and we don't know.
Yeah. Well, if you join the school board, you could be a voting member, because it has to have, there has to be, or not a voting, but you can be a member, you have to have one person on the school board. but they don't actually have to live in the town, just as long as you're on. So I don't know how you join that, but if you want to.
So what is the answer to my first question? Can I get a copy of that? When the final drainage, can I get one? I mean,
I'm sure it'll probably be,
Tammy, you're asking, he's a lawyer, can I get one?
He's the one that you need
It would be
to
a,
speak with
public-
about that.
Would not be a public fire
Reed,
after?
can I get one?
I'll get into it, I can't answer that question right now.
Depends on when it becomes public, what.
You know, in that meeting we had, Tammy, they told us on the letter that this is not the official public meeting that is called for. They said that this was an informal, informational meeting, is what they said. And when I asked that, he basically said, I wasn't gonna get it.
well, Gordon, we'll work on trying to figure out getting that for you when we know, but you've gone past the time, so we got.
Yeah,
keep
because
going.
I don't wanna have to sue the board just to get a copy to see if they're doing right, you know?
Okay.
I mean, I got houses down there, you know? Okay, thank you.
Somebody else coming?
Yeah.
She's coming up.
Greetings. Vicki Leininger, 764 Shady Lane. So I drive the S curves. And I saw on the agenda that Purdy Stone was going to be on, and I wondered if Shady Lane was involved with that. Of course. And on social media, one council member has been promoted and marketed as the sole beacon of truth and honesty for the town of Dayton, who will save us. Other 4 council members are promoted and marketed as corrupt. They are smeared, they are slandered, they are libeled. And the one who is called the honest beacon of truth is the one who seems to have circumvented the procedural process by contacting the street commissioner or the town board, because the improvements on Shady Lane were for trees only, according to the videotape that I saw with my eyes and heard with my ears.
No.
And so I reclaim my time.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, one council member decides to do things not according to procedural process and does things without the correct authorization. And I was concerned just seeing it in the agenda, thinking if the town board pays this, it was going to set a dangerous precedent that does that allow any citizen in the town of Dayton to do whatever they want and then come to the board and get reimbursement for it. So I just want to thank the board for standing up and doing the right thing and not paying a bill that was not authorized and voted on by the council. So thank you.
Cindy Marsh, 749 Shady Lane. First of all, that Shady Lane work was authorized, and you all knew it. The street superintendent was not bypassed. He was in on it. This street superintendent was in on it the whole time. And Ron, at a public meeting, got authorization to do the work. Yes, he did. He did it, and he said he would do it free. They're assuming that that meant to buy the materials too. So it's $800 worth of stone, so he's buying the materials too. It's not the end of the world. But the fact is, the work would not have had to be done in the first place if Ashley wasn't determined to start messing with our lane. That's vindictiveness, out of vindictiveness. But Reed, I want to ask you, they were talking about the leaf removal contract, and it said it could be extended another year by agreement of both parties. Is Ashley allowed just to make a decision for the town council that we're just gonna do it? Or when it's extended by both parties, does the council need to be involved in that decision?
Yeah, I'm in charge of streets.
Yeah, so I was under the impression we were governed by town council.
It's things like, we make decisions like that every day, Mark and I do, that have to do with keeping the town going,
Yeah, well, we're talking about a contract for leaf removal that says it can be extended another year by agreement of both parties. So, can he just make that decision, or should the town council be involved?
If you look at our ordinance, you're only allowed to spend up to $500 over that amount. And you can't, in spending money, you can't just go out and decide on your own. I can't just decide on building and maintenance, I'm gonna have the foundation pumped up with concrete and costs this or that. You gotta go to the council, and at least ask for a vote,
And I've heard other people, Mike, is something funny?
We spend over $500.
Yeah, he just went and tried to charge the town $800-some on it.
$800 and some that's along the town street right now,
wasn't
that the
approved.
town will not, that was approved by this
Wasn't
council.
approved.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't, watch the video.
Okay.
It
this
was
stuff-
approved, we
It was
watched the
approved, it
video
was
and
approved,
watched it
but
again and
you
watched it
guys said,
again.
hey
It was
guys,
approved.
Mike,
What you wanna hear.
in one breath, you said I was gonna do it free, so you must have heard me say I was gonna do
Well,
it.
when I say I'm gonna do something free, it doesn't include, well, it's just the labor, it's not the part.
Well,
It's
it-
free, period.
Okay, so it's free, it is free
Okay,
to you
so
now,
now
Mike,
it's done.
so we're done, so just drop it, okay? Good Lord.
Yeah, I see you spent $12,000 on Ashley's little retaliation project on Shady Lane without blinking an eye. And 4 of you
please.
approved it, so don't go whining to me
And
about
told the engineers
$800.
what to put in the report.
So back to my question about the leaf
They give you
removal.
3 options.
And the guy stood here and said that you told him what to put in it when you met with him, Ashley. You didn't meet
No.
with, none of us met with him, you met with him.
You met with them also, Ron. There's-
No, I did not, Ashley.
Okay, back to my question about the leaf removal. You guys are eating up my time.
Yeah, I'll take your comment into consideration and decide if I need to advise the board. I'm not here to engage and give you any direct legal advice.
Okay, well, I'd just like to make one more comment then. I understand you need to probably look into it, but when you have other people who want to bid and say they can save the town money, I'm wondering what possible motivation would we have for not getting bids that could potentially be lower and save the town money?
He does not like Dave Crandall, and he'll do everything in his power to make him
Any
lose
other
the bid.
comments from residents? Ron, reports from council member?
The only thing I got is up at Bush Cemetery, they're gonna have
Yeah.
up at Bush Cemetery, they're gonna have a Boy Scout Eagle project. Pam Crum and her husband Todd are gonna clean up the cemetery, remove some of the damaged dead trees and leaning trees, and put across the front and up on the side an 1880s cast iron fence, wrought iron fence with a gate. And I think it's something that's what there was a committee before of a few people wanted to do also. But they're doing it as a project, like what happened down over the hill at the park down here, so.
Okay. Ashley, do you have anything?
On, read on your building from this previous month, there was several conversations, but one of the conversations that you had with Mr. Kohler was almost an hour, and it evidently concerned a conference on a redevelopment guide and engineering costs for Baker Farm easements and such like that. I find it troubling that one board member would talk to you for an hour about, something that, he really doesn't have any direct involvement in.
But wait,
He's got
actually,
short
just a couple months ago, we got charged for you talking to Reed for almost an hour pre a church meeting that I questioned too, and I said, why is Ashley talking to Reed about utility easements when you're not at utilities?
But a
I'm
lot
just
of,
saying.
And look at all the other bills, there's a lot of them for Ashley.
but
on
this
there, Ashley.
easement in utilities, I was involved in, along with Tyrone from, way last year.
Well, you don't have
But it was
anything to do
a
with it,
free-
Ashley.
Carry on.
Pre-meeting to get ready for the church meeting.
And you weren't utilities.
And you're not
Ashley.
utilities now. And Ty had stated that he doesn't want anybody calling Reed,
Right.
and that pertains to everybody, without his permission, because we're paying Reed on.
Well,
So
I'm glad we're starting
everybody's-
that, so.
Yeah.
But,
But-
Mr. Kohler's case, there seems to be a little bit of conflict. He owns land that may or may not be needed for easement of a water line. He's, having evidently in-depth conversations with our attorney. I don't know the conversation, all I see is the description. And there seems to be a conflict to me with Councilmember being on board.
But you
Actually,
live on
I was-
Wesleyan Drive, so aren't you a conflict of interest as well?
Sure he is.
Well,
He's a
I'm just saying, you can't call people out about Reed's bills hourly when you're just as guilty as charged. So we are being paid by both you and Ron call Reed more than the four of us. So I try not to call Reed unless it's,
Because I've been
And
involved
I was
from
asking
the
Reed,
get-go on the.
Ashley, I was.
right, but nobody should be having pre-conferences with Reed for
Yeah.
anybody.
Going forward, I want just the board members to send me their email
Sure.
or call what they want. You guys can pick which day of the week. I'll send everything to Reed and give you guys all your information. That way we're like, we're at Ron, Ashley, Mike, me, Tammy, calling them. We could be asking them the same question. I'll put out an email of,
I
Reed,
think
what's
that's-
going on with this? Here's his response.
I think that's a great idea.
Or
Just
just,
say-
how about just email, instead of
Well, we just email.
calling him, just email him, but just put everybody on there and you have the.
Tyrone, we were talking about I was trying to get something across to let Reed know that we're working with Malacus on the easements that you guys have always wanted preferably to us work with.
No, I
and
don't
give him
have
the
a problem with
easements.
what you're talking about.
Well, you sure do, because you're talking
I'm
about
saying
it.
the problem that I have is, we have 5 board members, and we have an attorney that costs a lot of money, so if each of us keep calling him, and it could be a lot of the same
Well,
questions, let's just send it all to him, or.
I would
send it
like to
me,
have-
I'll send everything to him.
Tyrone, we okayed a $46,000 contract up here before a meeting, opened the bids illegally before a meeting. These guys okayed it illegally and picked for that stormwater. You guys opened the bids and decided at the meeting without telling anybody, and you picked the one $10,000 more. Everything was illegal about it, and I would like to be informed on what's going on around here.
There's
Yes,
nothing illegal,
yes.
there's nothing illegal about what you did.
Yes, there was actually. You can't open them up
We
ahead
got
of
more
time.
than one
You have
bid.
anything?
We opened them up.
You open it before a meeting, and
Motion to
the
adjourn.
ordinance says you cannot open a bid until the meeting, and you guys did that.
So it is state law.
It's a state stinking law. You're lucky somebody didn't take you to court.
No, they're not gonna, no. You might as well listen to what
You guys, you picked the one against the law, both of you guys. Just like you kept the certified one against the law. Why don't you get over the asshole?
The little box.
Who needs TV?
Oh, that's.
There's nothing on primetime TV that can beat this. I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah, reality TV.
I appreciate it.
Well, no, but I don't see that, they're both.
Yeah.
Well,
You're right. Can't see for.
And I can't believe they didn't want